And welcome to another exciting episode of Click Nation's Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Tim DOGG.
Nothing on my mind, but Georgia, we ain't playing with you.
And joining me tonight are my co-hosts. First up, we have the man behind the sound effects at Roddykat on Twitter.
Does the sound effects.
Oh.
It's
Well,
all.
since I actually called you by
What's up,
name.
everybody? That's right, folks. It is the 400th episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. We had to get the Voltron back together. Everything is lovely again. Here we go.
Oh yeah, got something for that too.
Form, feet, and legs. Form, arms, and body.
And who's the head?
And all form the head.
There we go.
I
There we
guess I'm
go.
the head, and I decided to come back for the 400th episode tonight.
There we go. There we go.
And the man you hear speaking and actually behind the sound effects is at agent_70 on Twitter.
What's up, everybody?
Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at?
And we have Mr. Pop Culture Network himself, Dirt. What name do you go by on here?
Dirt's good. That's what most people in real life know me by,
Okay.
actually.
Springfield, it's a hell of a town.
I like the glasses. And joining us tonight for this special occasion for the 400 is at Classic Materia on Twitter.
Say what's up.
What's up, everybody? Bi-week grind, a week nitty bong. It's great to be back.
There it is.
Spread love, it's the Brooklyn way.
There it is. The
I was
universal
hoping for that.
greeting.
Oh, man. That's great.
I've said that for a long time, actually.
That was
The
awesome.
man that brought us the Cold Slither Podcast Network, Cold Slither Podfather.
Absolutely, the progenitor. Everyone, the one before.
Oh, actually, yeah. So I'm gonna jump in here really quick and say that because I forgot probably to reiterate this part before we started. But the reason why we got Classic on the show was because of what Tim just said. So we wanted to give folks just a little bit of history on the Cold Slither, on the Comic Book Chronicles, as well as by proxy of the Cold Slither podcast, because at least in my mind, and I believe this probably still holds true, that the Comic Book Chronicles pretty much came out of the Cold Slither podcast technically, because it started off with Classic and Tim and Eclectic, and as exactly shout out to Eclectic. And well, Tim can get into this a little bit more as we go to the history of how it pretty much started. But it's, as if I remember from the show, it started out as a segment that might as well have been a show in the first place, and it ended up being a show, which would have probably happened anyway. So right now, we could, like I said, we start off with the history of the Cold Slither podcast coming from that.
Well, I would say that the Cold Slither podcast, and for those that may have never heard it, it's kind of the background of the CSPN network. That was really just myself and Eclectic starting off, just going into nostalgia, talking about things we grew up on, TV shows, cartoons, movies, comic books, and devoting whole episodes to discussing, just those things. kind of the same age. We're two really old guys. Tim was kind of just right behind us, a few years younger. And I thought for third host, if it was just me and Eclectic, it would be a lot of, it would just be Abbott and Costello. I'd say one thing, he'd say another, and just be like, okay, these two guys are just getting, telling people to get off their lawn. I want another voice there to basically bring out that, that younger perspective at the same time, someone's knowledgeable, and Tim like kind of fit the bill. And finding out more about Tim and the Click Nation, which is really where the Comic Book Chronicles came from, was just a joy, because he had such a wealth of knowledge and such a passion for all these things, particularly comic books and pro wrestling, that we were able to build off of that. And we had some great episodes on the Cold Slither podcast. Of course, like with most things, that kind of fell away a little bit, and we ended up, sort of moving on. But coming out of that was the Click Nation Chronicles, and so this show here, which is probably one of the longest running podcasts, comic books, or just in general. And, it has just been amazing to see what you guys have been able to continue to do. And, I go far back with all of you now, age of 70, we go back to high school. So it was funny when you and Tim connected and just started running. It was like, I didn't even need to be there. It's like, oh, he's in the comics, still there. It's been fantastic just seeing the progression since then. And, Tim coming out of this, becoming a bona fide editor at a comic site, writer, it's just fantastic just to see him grow too, because we were just really just three guys just talking shit, and coming out of that and turning it into something professional has been great. I could say I've realized a few dreams since then, particularly cosplaying. Dressing up as Spider-Man and going to conventions has been fun, and meeting some famous people in comics, but mostly seeing a lot of the things that we used to read about come to fruition on the big screen has been great. Like WandaVision now is a really hot thing, so to see that come off the page and onto the screen, all the Avengers movies and everything, it's been fantastic. I remember one of the first few Comic Book Chronicles we did was to talk about Spider-Man. I think it was the Superior Spider-Man. It was like after Amazing Spider-Man 700 kind of ended the title, and Peter Parker, and became Otto Octavius, and just the reactions to that, and it was a huge sort of thing, and to capture that and any big moments in comic books over the years. This show's been fantastic for it. I should let you speak more to, the actual show starts.
Yeah, so and with that, so Tim started, and yes, we definitely can't neglect the fact that the nation for the show also, and start off with Tim, which you can get in more right now, but Tim starting off show by himself for a couple of episodes before bringing. You can pick up from there, or whatever else you want to start with.
At least what I remember of it. So I actually, it's funny you brought up that I was doing it solo, because I totally forgot about it. I remember having can't think of her name on Twitter right now, but I had like maybe one or two hosts before, I guess, bringing Agent 70 and yourself on. And actually, I guess Dirk, I remember getting hooked up with you because I think Cold Slither was a guest on a podcast that you were doing, and I always say I just mentioned how I wanted to get into covering comics some more, and you started giving us access to some of the review copies you get. And
yeah, I was going to say I was willing to share my review copies, and so that got me a spot on the show.
Yeah. And then it's like, well, why don't we just turn this in, because it started as just reading the comics probably, and then it's like, why don't we just do a show about it that's talking about comics? which has morphed into this overproduced production.
Hey, listen, I remember nagging Classic by email, by social media, by text, like, hey man, let me be a guest on the Cold Slither podcast. And I definitely pushed my way into at least a couple of guest appearances. And I remember bringing up some comic book stuff, some pop culture stuff there. So I was happy to have an outlet for that. And that's what I've always loved about this opportunity that he gave me and introduced me to, you know, this whole podcast universe. So I'm forever grateful for that. You know, this has been a wild ride, and the fact that we've been able to, and one thing that I thought when we first started this is still born true to this day, which is because we are almost, other than during that brief time during the pandemic, during the initial lockdown when we weren't getting comics, we almost always had a consistent amount of content to talk about. We didn't have to come up with shows. We just had books, and then we had news, and that was really, you know, like a great way to just kind of keep things going and keep things on track. You know, so you know that's always been, you know, like our guiding principles. Like, you know what, we have books to talk about, and we have, you know, and with the entertainment and the comic book news out there, we've always got stuff to talk about. So, you know, that's been keeping us going. Literally 400 episodes. If average that out, people, how many years is that? 8 years. Holy cow.
Dirt, you wanna it has definitely been more than just you lending us your review copies to come through.
Don't shortchange yourself.
Exactly.
I don't remember last week. I don't remember 8 years ago. Sheesh. I can remember like early on when it was audio only. It was a lot easier because I could sit in my underwear in the basement and record the show. But then when we started getting a lot fancier, it's like I had to put pants on. I had to make sure that there was, you know, at least somewhat of a cleaned up background behind me. I looked back, actually, we were talking, you know, about doing this episode, and I, you know, for nostalgia's sake, just started looking through some old videos, and oh my gosh, I used to be sitting on the other side of the living room with, you could just see stacks of papers and boxes of comics, and you know, I had all the Transformers on the mantle in the living room, and you could just see like piles of garbage just stacked up back there that my wife was always constantly complaining about. And you know, that's all cleaned up now because she's evil and I live in fear. But you know, lately I haven't been on the show in a long time because I found out two big things. One is that when you have kids, as your kids get older, you have less and less free time. And two, everybody in the world says, hey, nothing goes on Thursday night. We will schedule every meeting and every play and every practice and every game and every whatever else on a Thursday night. And when the pandemic happened and everything shut down, you know, there was nothing going on anyway. So people started doing stuff on Thursday night. We started recording stuff for church on Thursday night to broadcast on Sunday. And then you guys started doing the show again. And I was like I kind of already promised. So kind of had a conflict there. But luckily this week, amazingly enough, they went on vacation. They've been in Mexico for the last 2 weeks. On vacation, so we've had people filling in, and it's been live streaming instead of pre-recording. So luckily, I didn't have anything going on this Thursday, so I just happened to luck out and have this one free.
And on that, actually, speaking of, because you know, there have been definitely a lot of changes in the show. You know, whether you know we've gone from Google Hangouts to now going to, well, we actually was doing something else before that, and then coming here to Skype. But
right, it was the light. It was a stream of light, wasn't it?
Indeed, yes. Yeah, and that worked out until it didn't. So, and then Skype and Zoom kind of came along and started, you know, doing a little bit more heavy lifting because of, well, actually, Skype was pretty much what it was, and then Google Hangouts changed itself where it wasn't the way it was, especially getting rid of our beloved sound effects, starting off with that mess. But that just kind of ended up us getting up Skype. But also life changes that has happened between folks, like Dirt, has been said previously. Tim, does now have a job editor at CR, but also has had some life changes since the show. One, becoming a new husband, and also having a kid. Not to put it all out there, but I'm saying that, which is another reason why it hasn't really because of those. Wanted to make sure that was out. So a lot of things been going on with the show to make it blossomed into now. But I was also going to say, like, really quick before on something else I was going to bring up, and I totally had notes on that, and I totally don't. But that's fine. For me, when I came onto the show, I was kind of working at a job, and I was kind of tuning in, and even from the beginning of the show, I was pretty much at my job, on Twitter. I mean, pretty much at my job, watching the show as it was being recorded, and just chiming in on Twitter, and and Tim and folks and the guys were taking questions and stuff off of Twitter, which we still and I would always be there to kind of answer in. And there was been a couple of times when I'm off, I was like, Tim, could I pop in for a few, and then some invites started going out. So I came around like one or other. I think started being a permanent part of the show, and so basically it was pretty much me just coming out of the rafters on this. I kind of regret, honestly, not asking Classic early on to pester him to get on the Cold Slither podcast, but you know what? That's hindsight. Because although I did do an episode with me and Agent 7, it was on in the checkbox that. Then things changed, and somehow I ended up hosting a show. Somehow, some way.
Promoted.
Yeah, I guess so. So things kind of how things happen, and here we are, and technical changes and all that about it. We are now here with 400 episodes of the show. I don't know.
Just to that, you listening to the early episodes of the Comic Book Chronicles, and even to the Cold Slither, when you're doing that. It really shows the impact that your show has if you're working on anything, any kind of project. Someone's always listening. It might not be like huge numbers, or you might not get everyone listening to your show, but someone does listen, and it does reach people, and it does open up a lot of things for a lot of people. Even now, every now and then I still get some random, "Hey man, I used to listen to your show. That's how I got started," and I'm like, wow, thanks. But back then we were doing it, you see the numbers and go, "Oh, no one's listening to us," then feel down about it. But it's kind of why you keep going. And so that's what the impact that Comic Book Chronicles continues to have is, 8 years, 400 episodes. There are so many people that even if they haven't heard the show in a while, they know what you guys do, and they know what to expect, and it's helped them a lot. I've got a lot of people that I still follow and talk to that say, "Hey, yeah, I still listen to the show because I'm not buying books right now," or this show got me started on reading such and such, and it's really impactful for them. Keep doing what you're doing.
Many thanks. Appreciate that.
I guess, yeah, at this point, we can also give a shout out to, which I now kind of regret not reaching out to him, but shout out to some of the other folks that part of the show. Nightwing 97. Even definitely a friend of the show, but has been part of the show times itself.
Is also a friend of mine and Classic from back in high school.
Yes, absolutely. But also, I'm not sure what he's going by now, like Devon Gloom. I can't remember what he's going by now. And also, I think Tim mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, Darkwing Duck. going by now.
Just doing a shout out.
There you go. There you go. So, you know, there's folks that have been here along the way and still kind of rocking with it. At times of the body.
I was about to say shout out to, I believe William Bruce West was a guest or once or twice on our show as well. So shout out to him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Charge my heart. I mean, charge my head, not my heart.
Whoever puts together
Send a
this,
big
that
shout to
kick-ass
everyone.
beat.
Send a big shout to everyone that's ever guested on the CBC.
Absolutely, absolutely, including some folks putting out some big books at this point.
Yes, one of which we will review tonight.
For sure, for sure. So I
It's
guess
called foreshadowing, people.
I know, you gotta love it.
Yeah, like literally, you know, we've had folks on the show promoting their creator-owned stuff, their smaller press stuff, and the next thing you know, we're seeing them headlining major events at the big two.
Whether we're reading them or not, but
Hey, they're still headlining them.
So I guess any more thoughts on, you know, the past of the or just in general from folks before we head into books?
I don't recall who it was, but whoever put together that kick-ass theme song for the show.
Wait, was that
Variant Dash?
Variant Dash? Definitely, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah.
We
But that
still-
did do that.
Wait, who was it?
definitely.
The
a shout
variant
out.
dash.
Oh, Variant Dash. Okay.
Right. And actually, speaking of other shout outs, definitely got a shout out to the brother Adam Black. Because if I recall from the 300th episode, but a nice video from that, if I'm not.
Yep.
So, and has been some part of the show in some way, shape, or form. So definitely want to give him a shout out also.
And definitely hooked us up with business cards.
Yes, you know what? That's funny you should mention that because I do remember I coming across a picture of my business cards. I have no idea what the actual cards are. Well, actually, I do know. I came across them recently.
Yeah, no, I mean, back when we actually went to comic book conventions, I handed them out.
Yeah, same.
Handed them out to creators. Definitely had our name out there. So, you know, even though most people don't hold on to business cards anymore, they're still worthwhile having because you never know. You know, just like Classic said, you never know who holds on to it, and the next thing you know, that's a connect that you still have because you made contact with them in person.
And actually, speaking of Comic Cons, I remember meeting Tim directly at Heroes Con a couple of years back when everything was quote unquote normal.
I was about to say I still have Roddykat and PCN_dirt on my list to actually meet in person because obviously I've known Classic forever, and I did meet Tim at New York Comic Con. So I still have two of my co-hosts, and this is, believe me, this is something that my friends and family are always awestruck by. They're just dumbstruck by the fact that I've literally not met two people who I used to, you know, at least when we were doing it every week, when the four of us would do it every week, I used to talk to once every week for year after year, that I had only met one of those three. So it's kind of crazy.
And you live within a mile of my sister, and I've still never met you in person.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Or at least a couple of miles. Brooklyn's not as small as you think.
Well, and she also moved recently, so I'm not sure exactly how close or far you are now, but she moved a year and a half ago, I guess. But still, anyway, yeah, she lives in Brooklyn, so I mean, technically, we actually might have passed at some point, like ships in the night, you know, and just not even been aware, but you know, who knows.
That's wild. That's wild. But yeah, like you know, before we move on, I wanted to shout out to, you know, we all know the good and bad sides of the internet, but this is definitely one of the good sides, which is the fact that we can form up as a Voltron online, you know, from different parts of the country and talk about comics and talk about pop culture. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing that, like, literally I've only ever met in person, of the four other people here, only two of them. So it's pretty remarkable. And it's a testament to how great, the internet can be. I was about to say I'm gonna clap for myself right now.
And with that, I think we can probably start going to the books. I know, Classic, you said you did not have a whole lot of time. Now you want to stick with?
A little bit.
Cool.
I'm curious as to some of the books you guys have been reading. So this will be me listening to the show like on Spotify, SoundCloud.
Yeah, which
Sounds
I didn't even about to get into that, but we'll get all of that out of the way at the end of the show. So sorry about that, folks. That was what we were waiting for. So yeah, so let's get into the comic books of the week then. And we've already said we were going to start off with Black Cat number 2.
Right. Black Cat number 2 is written by Jed MacKay with art by C.F. Villa and colors by Brian Reber. The reason why I nominated this book as our first book is that it is actually one of my potential click of the week for myself, because it is such a solid book and a tremendously fun read.
Yeah, we've definitely said on this show since book started with the first volume that Black Cat's been pretty much a fun book. Just every time it comes out, and no different than if it is a King in Black tie-in. So I guess to kind of get into it, we kind of get into after Felicia finds out that, well, actually, this is well after the fact that she finds out that she's been tasked do a rescue job for one of the bigger heroes fighting against Null and the whole army. Felicia formulating her plan, just like she does with any of her other heists, which respect out to her, her confidence level not really shirking away from it, because even at the beginning of the issue, like, look, I've ripped off some high profile people. You think this is going to stop me from doing what I need to do? Crazy. And her gang starts formulating this plan and getting adding another member and some gadgets together. That task. And even in that in itself was just kind of fun to see, like, all the stuff that is coming up before the actual plan goes on.
Right. There's actually a little bit of a reveal here in this planning process. During these pages, it's revealed that there was an inside man in one of the previous jobs that was pulled off at the Sanctum Sanctorum, and that was pretty fun. And it is that inside, maybe inside man's the wrong word,
being,
the wrong term. Inside ghost, maybe, is a bit of a spoiler. We don't want to spoil the whole thing, but there was an inside ghost in on that job, and it is that inside ghost that is proving to be a vital, who proves to play a vital role in this story.
I do love the fact that they've been using this being since they've been introduced, because I enjoyed them, the times that we've seen them previously, but seeing them in this was kind of pretty fun.
Right. Absolutely, absolutely. And what Roddykat was mentioning before about, some of the tech and the gadgetry and whatnot that comes up there. What's cool about this, and I've always said this, this is definitely, akin to a heist comic book. Think of Ocean's 11, and think of all the times during these heist movies that they have to come up with novel and creative ways to get around obstacles placed in the thieves' ways. So, in here we actually get some references to anti-venom, which is kind of like a mild blast from the past. We get lots of cool gadgets from heroes and villains alike. And we also get, believe it or not, a certain 4-wheel contraption that we did see in the last issue, but comes back again. And that 4-wheel contraption has big dune buggy wheels and shoots spider webs. So that's a big hint.
Which has showed up, yeah. Not only has shown up last issue, but I'm fairly certain shown up somewhere. It might have actually been in the first volume. Definitely have shown up one. Which is, I appreciate Marvel's been doing a little bit more of that, this past couple of years. Like, hey, we hadn't seen this person or this gadget or whatever show up in a good minute, so definitely little callbacks to doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was about to say the book wraps with a nice little cliffhanger splash page where we get another callback to, I believe it's that same Doctor Strange. Oh no, to I think it's the previous volume of Doctor Strange, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
So, there's a little bit of a reference that's pulled from the Doctor Strange book, and as I said, it proves to be a pretty interesting twist at the end of this book, and I'm more than interested in seeing where this goes from here. We're on board. We're on board with Jed MacKay's writing of Black Cat. I can remind our viewers and listeners that Roddykat was and myself were both very disappointed that this book was that the previous volume of Black Cat was canceled prior to, or at least during the pandemic and prior to the announcement that it would be coming back during King in Black. I was under the impression that it was going to come back soon because of stuff that I had seen and heard both online and via social media, but Roddykat wasn't as hopeful. But I'm glad that we were given another shot, that Jed MacKay was given another shot to continue telling his story.
Absolutely, especially in a realm where a lot of books canceled and stuff dropped all the time. I wasn't really positive about it coming back, but I feel like at some point, back. You still kind of hate the fact that it was tied to like.
Right. All right. So if we're done with that, President Bartlett.
What's next?
So I'm scanning through the rest of the books that folks read this week. I know Roddykat didn't read this. Tim read King in Black #3.
I did.
So before we get started, let me just go over the creative team on this. King in Black #3. This is actually a 5-issue limited series. It's written by Donny Cates, who is the previous guest that we were speaking about before, our previous Comic Book Chronicles guest. It's penciled by Ryan Stegman, inks by J.P. Mayer, and colors by Frank Martin. What'd you think about this book, Tim?
It was cool. We finally got the showdown between Thor, who had been absent, and Noel in Black himself. We got more references to the God of Light, who is Noel's opposite, and supposedly the one that's destined to stop him. And I saw some speculation online that the person that showed up at the end is supposed to be the God of Light, but for me, I feel like that if so, it wasn't very obvious. Even though if you go back to Silver Surfer Black miniseries, since Silver Surfer was the one that populated life, I guess, in the Marvel Universe eons ago during his little time travel adventure and fight with Noel, that he could be looked at as the God of Light. But I feel like that big revelation is going to come in probably one of the next couple of issues down the road.
Right, I agree with that. I felt like the next to last page of the story, I think, confirms that the Silver Surfer Black is not this particular God of Light, because it says that apparently the dome being put up around the Earth is what can keep the God of Light out, or at least Null's opposite out. But apparently the Surfer can. So I'm not 100% sure how to interpret that against what people are saying online.
Yeah, so and also I feel like it'd be like Marvel will be hyping it if that actually were the case, and they haven't. So at least not that I've seen.
Yeah, understood. I mean, we read Silver Surfer Black knowing that it probably would at some point play into a lot of the stuff that was coming up, and obviously with Kate's being involved with it, and it being related to Null and the symbiotes, that we would see this come to fruition at some point. It's been I think a year or two since Silver Surfer Black wrapped, so it's kind of come full circle in that regard. Just to quickly touch on a couple of the other things that happened in the issue. Iron Man has a cool Rock'em Sock'em Robots moment. That's pretty fun. And as at TimDog98 mentioned, there's at least one form of the cavalry on the way. That's the Silver Surfer Black. So, but we still are probably going to see this God of Light, Null's opposite, come up over the next. It's a 5-issue limited series, so we're probably going to see either in next issue or the last issue of the series.
Yeah.
So Roddykat, we only have a little while to go to get through King in Black.
Yay! Which I actually kind of sort of kept caught up on thanks to YouTube channel I mentioned last week, Variant Comics.
Okay.
Yeah, so I kind of caught up on that. Still don't want to read it, but at least I know what's going on to the Venom stuff going into this.
Gotcha. All right.
That being
Cool.
said, though, we can move on to something else. Hey, Dirk, what's up with that future state Shazam?
Oh, you tell me. I originally said I was not going to buy any of these, but you walk into the comic shop these days and it's like, is there anything in my file? And they're like, no. So it's like, oh man. So I go digging through the racks, and eventually it's like my standards kind of lower and lower and lower, and it's like, okay, I'll grab a couple books off the shelf. So I don't know. I had no idea what to expect from the book. It's written. I forgot you were doing the whole credits thing, so of course I didn't write any of the stuff down for the books that I have. But I think Tim Sheridan, I think, is the guy's name, and I think he's a screenplay writer. He was one of the guys that was brought in for 5G, and then that whole thing got canceled. So his 5G stuff is now part of the future state stuff. But this story is really set like future state. The idea is like it's some future timeline, right? It's set at some random point in the future, and this really does feel like they plucked an issue out of the middle of a storyline at some point years down the road. So 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, whatever down the road, they just pulled one random issue out of what looks like it could possibly be like a new Teen Titans or Titans type team book that Shazam just happens to be a member of. And they have this story where he's actually acting kind of weird and starting to go crazy, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And it's like, on the one hand, it really does that job of conveying that this is in a different timeline, a different universe. This is a different branch of the tree. This really is separate from everything else going on. This is its own thing. But on the other hand, you're reading it and you're just like, I don't know who this character is. I'm not sure who this character. Why is this happening? Why are they hanging out at the old Justice League Detroit headquarters? What is going? What? Like what? Like, so many times I'm reading this just going, what? And I guess you can say that the story is interesting for the concept they come up with Shazam, and I don't want to spoil it because it's the hook of the whole, two-part miniseries here. But it really does. You have to be a big fan of Shazam, I think, to really get a lot out of this. If you're not a big fan of Shazam, I don't think you're really going to care about what the hook of the story is. And it's done, like I said, it's done in such a confusing manner where a lot of I've read a few of the other books from Future State where they at least try to explain like what's going on. So they at least say like, if it's not a narrator, they'll at least have a couple characters like mention something that happened a couple years ago that at least puts everything into perspective, so you have a little bit of an idea of what's going on. This does none of that. Like, this is just completely out of the blue. So if you want to know what it's like for a brand new reader to jump into the middle of a comic book storyline, then this might actually be a good tool for people to pick up, to just be like, how confusing is it really to pick up a modern comic book and try to jump into the middle of a story? Well, I've got your primer right here. It's Future State Shazam. It's one of the most confusing things that I've read in a long time. And I do think the hook was kind of fun if you're a fan of the Shazam storyline, but it's kind of thick to cut through. And I would not recommend it for everybody, but it is interesting overall. I wouldn't say it was great, but it was good. But it's not for everybody.
Oh, I know that Shazam is supposed to be tied to, or it will be and is tied to what happened in Teen Titans book, that whole Teen Titans Academy, what happened.
Okay.
Allude to book. I don't know if I haven't read this yet, but I don't know somehow that might be tied into that.
And there's nothing in here where it says as seen in Future State Titans, or go check out Future State Teen Titans #1 on newsstands now, or anything. Like, there's nothing, because that was one of the things I was kind of confused, and I just assumed like it must have some sort of connection with Titans, because it feels like a Titans story, even though it has Shazam on the cover. But there's nothing in there that says, hey, make sure you read Teen Titans first, or anything like that. It's just it's just like, hey, here's your paddle, start canoeing.
Right.
Gotcha.
And see, even with the Teen Titans book, like, they just allude to an event happening, and they do mention that Shazam was in there, but they never really go into it. And there, a few of the future books are kind of like this, where they allude to something, they don't really ever go into what happened. Well, probably the exception might be next Batman and whatever the stuff is going on in Batman.
Right.
But they definitely
and that,
allude to
well, right. That's
and
the corner that I'm in. The Batman. I kind of stuck to the Batman corner because it's kind of the easiest to put together. So that's why I'm curious to hear about what you have to say about one of the more, like the standalone Shazam books. I was surprised to hear that Roddykat mentioned that it was tied into Titans. I didn't know that, so I started to open it, and now I see.
Yeah, and like I read the Swamp Thing one. I really liked it. That was one I was actually really surprised by how much I liked it. And then I realized it was written by Ram V, the guy who did Justice League Dark for the last 2 years or whatever. He did the Justice League Dark backup story that's running in the Future State Justice League books. He's going to be doing the Swamp Thing story, the new series going forward. So he knows the character. He's worked with the character before. That's a really good book. I really enjoyed that Future State Swamp Thing. And it's set after some sort of apocalyptic event years and years in the future, and the entire world has changed, and Swamp Thing has created like another like race of Swamp Things, but he explains it like in like his inner monologue as they're traveling and walking around. He's explaining how he created these beings, these other creatures, his family, essentially, to walk around with him. And he kind of explains that he's trying to see if there are any humans left on Earth, and he's talking through all of this. So you don't know what exactly happened that caused this big, event that destroyed 99.9% of the human life on Earth, but you don't really need to. But all the stuff that's pertinent to the Swamp Thing character, he at least explains what's going on with that. Whereas with this book, it's just suddenly like, hey, here's a random piece of Justice League Detroit, and here's a random character from Teen Titans, and here's a random thing from Shazam, and now I'm just going to ball them all together, and here's a story set in some random point in the future, and you're just kind of like, oh, okay, I guess, and sure, why not?
I want to say maybe Immortal Wonder Woman from this week might have touched on something like that, because I know we Swamp Thing. And then that might, but that sounds like, if that's the case, it's after what you're talking about. Or well after what you think of. Anyway, we can go into another book if we're done with that one. Got something that wanna pluck out?
Tim, what'd you think of Avengers this week? Because I think Roddykat read that also.
Yeah,
I liked it. It actually might be my click of the week. It was a Black Panther sort of focused issue. I like the confrontation between him and Nighthawk at the end, where they were trading the verbal jabs back and forth. They had a nice chat with Boseman, homage, naming a helicarrier after him. What else happened here? I like that they sped up sort of a lot of the confrontations during the Phoenix trial by combat that took place. We eliminated some contenders quickly, but also teased some more to come in the next issue, of course. But yeah, overall fun issue. I'm liking that. I guess this storyline has been hyped to end with a new Phoenix host being introduced, and they'll at least it should be a established hero or villain. It may not be a big name hero or villain, but they will be after this is all over with.
Right. The book's written by Jason Aaron with art by Javier Garrón and colors by David Curiel. One thing I noted during the bout with Nighthawk, because there is a little bit of there's a little bit of a costume change that each of the characters who take on that piece of the Phoenix Force that they undergo for when that symbolizes their absorption of the Phoenix Force fraction of the Phoenix Force power. So it was interesting to see Nighthawk's costume literally morph into something that looked very, very Batman-esque. So that was interesting to read. And what's funny is that there's just hints at how they are portraying the Squadron Supreme in the Marvel Universe, because we really haven't seen too much of them, because I believe their books have been canceled. Their crossover books with like Empire and whatnot were canceled during the pandemic. So we really have only seen snippets of how they are being portrayed in the current Marvel Universe. We've only seen a little bit of them in the pages of Avengers. So it's interesting to see Nighthawk's super strong misconceptions of the nature of Wakandan society. Like Tim mentioned, there are several matches in the tournament that take place, and there's some obvious and not so obvious winners.
Right. Yeah, I've actually. So this is the issue where it seems a little bit more contest of champions than it let itself out to be coming into this thing. And normally I'd be on board with that, and I still kind of am to a point. But coming off of 10 of Swords kind of stuff, which I still at this point like a little bit more than what's going on here right now. It's still doing what it's supposed to be doing, and where where it's going to get to near the end of this, and post and what I'm to see going on. And yeah, as far as the Squadron Supreme stuff, that stuff's been playing out like bits and pieces here in Avengers, and I know they're still going to get back to it at some point. probably maybe after this arc's finished. We know Aaron's been pretty much laying out a whole lot of groundwork for a lot of stories a while ago to kind of back and forth. Being one of them, still kind of wears me off to see this Squadron Supreme, especially Nighthawk, because we know there was a version of Nighthawk that's died fairly recently, but I know it's not that one.
Right.
And there is even a new Nighthawk in that place. Like I said, seeing this one and seeing the stance and having the Batman off, much as I hate to say that, as he and T'Challa was doing, was kind of funny, but yeah, definitely seeing the matchups kind of play out, and damn shame to see that duck. There was just no cause for that. That was terrible. I mean, it was funny, but it was terrible. But it was definitely a good read this week. I can safely say that. And I'm kind of very much looking into that last matchup that because it seems a little outmatched, but it's all in issue. There was a very mismatched fight that ended up going not the way you would think it would. Played out quite well, quite very much.
Right. I cannot be this
Yes.
open-minded.
Which I feel like there's a different analogy there somewhere, and I was like, you know what, I appreciate it, and you will probably see that up on CB Caps at some point.
It was pretty funny because it really involves, when we're talking about members of the Squadron Supreme, we know that these characters are analogs for certain DC characters. So if there's one thing that you understand being overwhelming for a certain superpowered man of steel, there's something to be said for having to get a grip on your super senses, and that's essentially what overcomes the Squadron Supreme member here in this issue.
And if you didn't know, you know who it is. What's up?
Exactly. All right, so if we have wrapped with that, I wanted to ask Classic if he had ever read Hulk Future Imperfect by Peter David and
no, I didn't get a chance to see that.
No kidding. No, this is from back in the day. This is from the early 90s. So yeah, Hulk Future Imperfect. It's a two-part story.
It sounds familiar, but yeah, you have to refresh me on what happened in that one.
I mean, broad strokes, it's the Hulk it's what happens to the Hulk after nuclear holocaust wipes out the vast majority of the people on the planet, and he survives. But it also involves the current day, or at least back then's current day incarnation of the Hulk, time traveling forward to confront him. So I was about to say, if you have access to Marvel Unlimited, I definitely recommend taking a look at these issues. I've been trying to get Roddykat. That's the reason why I brought it. I'm trying to get Roddykat to read it. I'm pretty sure PC_Dirt read it. Dirt, did you read Hulk Future Imperfect back in the day or since then? No. You're on mute.
No, I'm sorry. Back in the, I thought you meant the new Maestro series.
No, we're getting into that.
Future Imperfect.
Yeah,
no, not the new series.
Right, I'm leading into the Maestro series because the reason why I wanted to ask about this amongst the panel. Tim, how about you? Have you read Hulk Future Imperfect?
I haven't, but I'm aware of it.
Okay, so I would recommend it. It's only 2 issues. It's definitely worth reading. The reason why I bring it up is I wanted to talk about Maestro Warren Pax number 1 out this week. It's the second miniseries that serves as of the 2 Maestro miniseries that serve as prologues to Hulk Future Imperfect. This particular miniseries is written by Peter David with art by Javier Pina and colors by Jesus Bertov. So this is actually a direct continuation of the prior Maestro miniseries, which continues to establish the Hulk's journey as the Maestro to where he is at the beginning of Future Imperfect. So I don't know how many more of these miniseries they're going to put out, but it's informative. It definitely fills in some gaps, and it does help that it's Peter David filling in this this prologue story to Hulk Future Imperfect. So again, it's helpful to have read Future Hulk Future Imperfect prior to reading these miniseries because things start to come together a little bit more easily. But if you're reading these alone and then getting to Future Imperfect, you're pretty much going to have uh, 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 a timely, you're going to be reading things in consecutive order. So, it's not the worst thing in the world. But, for someone who's read it, who read that and got like copies of that signed by Perez and Peter David, these two miniseries have been pretty fun.
Right. Can't remember what it was. Oh, so I was going to ask you real quick because I haven't read Future Imperfect. Does that PAX part actually is something coming from that, or is that something that is established here?
I'm not sure. Having read this just earlier today, I didn't have a chance to consult to look that up on Marvel Unlimited, or I definitely did not want to go diving into the back issue boxes to look for that. I'm pretty sure I could find it quick, but
Right.
at the end of the day, I think it is, but I'm not sure. But I definitely like the idea of setting that particular program, quote unquote, up on behalf of the Maestro to try to establish, his control over everything. I wanted to mention that Machine Man really looks good in this setting, as opposed to where he's currently in the Marvel universe, even after the events of Iron Man 2020. Which is a little bit of a tough read, but I enjoyed it.
Right. So, given that this is like Agent 7 said, this is the second of two miniseries Maestro based. Still don't necessarily know to what end this is going towards, if there's anything, or whether it's just like happened to be because it's Marvel's 80th anniversary and they just wanted to throw folks out there. They really haven't really been throwing too many things out there that doesn't seem that it's going to go anywhere or be done something being done with.
Mhm.
Couple of years, that's going to something and know the same way set up to. Like we
Right.
can only assume that there's going to be something else is done with the Maestro coming out of this. And as I've said in the last couple of times talking about this Maestro stuff, they're not really sure where this fits in, or if it even does fit in bulk stuff.
Right.
That's going on for the. But
Right. I was just gonna make a point that this may just be them trying to put in this prologue to help to reintroduce folks to Future Imperfect, because I guess it's an anniversary year for that book itself. I'm not sure how many years it is, but it's definitely been like 20 plus. So I think that might be where they're going with this. And for anyone that was reading Hulk back then, classic, PCN_dirt. Believe it or not, we actually find out that the Pantheon, if you remember those folks, and one ruler of Latveria have also survived the nuclear holocaust. So that is where this particular issue ends. And I wasn't sure if I was going to pick this up in physical form. I definitely picked up the first one because I was enthusiastic about the art. Definitely appreciated the art on the last Maestro miniseries. I'm leaning towards picking this one up because I like where I kind of like the story that Peter David's telling ahead of Future Imperfect.
And if I'm not mistaken, though, this is the same future. I mean, it's not surprised that Doom's around because this is, if I'm not mistaken, the same future that like Old Man Logan and hardly sure.
Right. I think that's a different future, because I don't think the Maestro is involved in the Old Man Logan story,
No.
in that timeline. But
No, I think Old Man Logan. That was the whole point of Old Man Logan, was
What?
that the Hulklings had come around.
out of the Maestro,
Yeah, was it
Mm,
because it was Hulk's children?
right? But Future Imperfect doesn't involve any children at that point. But I could be wrong. I'd have to go back to the Old Man.
Well, but I mean, not. I don't think it's in the same point, but I think it's supposed to be the same timeline.
Right.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was thinking. And plus, it's really, especially if you see like Avengers of the Wasteland book, if you've read that, which I might have been the only one. There's definitely a Hulk in that's Banner. like, but it does seem to be kind of following that same line where the Maestro fits in that stuff, but it does definitely seem place around the same time. And it was just like Maestro stuff was after a Holocaust, which granted it doesn't have to be the same time, but still.
Exactly.
Well, but it seemed like from
time.
what they're talking about, it seemed like it's the same one. That's all. That's I don't really know. For
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
Right.
They did the Old Man Logan ongoing series. Old Man Logan 25 had Old Man Logan and Maestro finally battle.
Oh, okay.
Head.
So they did
Yeah.
tie it in. Interesting.
Yeah.
I wasn't keeping up with the Old Man Logan series. Okay, thanks for that.
It's been a few years. Yeah. Like I
lot of
said, I don't
things.
even remember last week half the time. So
We read a lot of things that we have well established on this show.
Yes.
So, but yeah, that to kind of wrap up the Maestro things, like yeah, that definitely the Maestro versus Machine Man thing was pretty cool. And yeah, whatever's coming up in this, hoping it pays off. Whatever reason they out here for. It's been a pretty good, decent read so far. You know, with that, especially with the last end to that last moving from that last. All right, so we've got one more book. We're going to go ahead and just run the rapid fire.
I will spin it up.
Hit it.
I'll spin up the minigun. Oh, we've got a new minigun too for the rapid fire.
Yes, folks, it's rapid fire time. Who wants to be the first? Lay your books out there on the line.
Dirt already talked about Future State Shazam. The only other book I had was Deceased Dead Planet number 7, which was the finale. I've enjoyed the series. I've checked out some of the digital chapters. I know in his review, Dirt says that it sort of skewed away from the horror aspect of it, which I agree with, but I actually didn't even mind that part of it just because it seems like it's still growing out that deceased universe. So if they feel like DC feels like continuing this story, there's definitely different ways it can go. They can continue showing how they can jump ahead a couple more years or so, how the Earth has been repopulated, and they can still keep introducing new threats for this new version of the Justice League led by John Kent and Damian Wayne. Follow their adventures some more.
but I don't know. It just feels like this was too much of an ending, though, because basically all the villains died.
Yeah, but there's always more villains. They like introduce Trigon out of nowhere. There's always like where's Mogul? That's how you say his name. Is it Mongol?
Mongol.
Mongol.
Mongol. Yeah.
Yep.
People like that.
Yeah.
They can keep introducing. Though it does lose some of the appeal because the first part, the original Deceased, we got to see a bunch of your favorite heroes die, and then Unkillables, it sort of followed the villains, and now Dead Planet jumped ahead a couple years and brought everyone back to Earth as they found a cure for the zombie virus. So yeah, it does feel very finite, sort of a clean ending. But as I said, I wouldn't mind seeing what else they could cook up with it. But if it does end here, it's a good stopping point.
Although, as we know, Tom Taylor's writing this book, especially with Injustice Year 1 just much wrapping up. Pretty sure he'll find a way to some point. Or I was kind of on top of the DC book. Also, I hadn't read this one yet and hadn't caught up with Planet, but I had enjoyed that run and a couple of stuff that came after it. I was like, thought to be a little bit too much. Probably will go back and all of this. But Tom Taylor and crew, that, and I don't even like zombie stuff. Probably as good as almost as good as the Injustice stuff. So you want to do the rest of your stuff?
Let's see. I just had 2 other books. I had the Superman Worlds at War, which, oof, hey, I wanted to give this one a shot. I wanted to like it a lot more than than how I ended up feeling about it. You got 4 stories for $7.99. It's a 60-page book, so you're getting a lot of story. But on the other hand, I felt like 2 of them were okay. One of them I don't care about at all, and then one of them was just kind of confusing, and I'm not sure why it was included. And Superman himself only appears in like 4 panels towards the end of the first story, and that's it. So for being a Superman book, it's not a Superman book. This really felt more like one of those like DC always does those like holiday specials, those, you know, when it's like Christmas time or Valentine's Day or something, they always throw out one of those overpriced, full of short stories that they're kind of connected by theme, but not really connected. And that's what this felt more like. You had all these characters that are somehow tied to War World, Mongol, as we were just talking about. And Superman's been trapped there, but we have people on Earth that are wondering where Superman is. So they're talking about Superman. Where is Superman? Why isn't he here anymore? What happened to him? Who was he really? Was he a shapeshifter? Whatever. That's your main story, is a bunch of people sitting around talking about what could Superman really be? Was he a beetle from another planet that could change shape and turn into a human-like thing? And then now he's on another planet, or did he die, or did he go into another dimension and he's still fighting and he can't make his way back, or, you know, whatever. And again, that's kind of an interesting story, but that's generally like the backup story in the annual, or like the 5th story in that holiday special, not the main story in the $7.99 book that you get as part of your big 2-month event. The second story was a Mr. Miracle, Mr. Miracle, but it was the Shiloh Norman Mr. Miracle, which is the one that nobody remembers and nobody really seemed to like. And he's just an escape artist who knows some magic tricks. He's not really anything. He's not a new god. He's not, you know, anything special. He's just a guy who's kind of lucky. And he got some tech from New Genesis, but he finds himself stuck. He just happens to be stuck on War World while the other stuff is going on. But his story doesn't really have a lot to do with anything else that's going on, except that he crosses paths with Midnighter at one point. And then you're like, Midnighter? Why the heck is Midnighter in here? This doesn't make any sense at all. And then it turns out the next story is a Midnighter story. And then you're like, oh my gosh, now I feel like my money's wasted. Okay, fine. So then you read this story, and Midnighter is on War World because they're making a synthetic type of almost like kryptonite. And so now he's got to stop them from making this kryptonite. But of all people, why would Midnighter be on War World in space in another part of the galaxy to stop them from making this synthetic kryptonite stuff? Like, this doesn't make any sense, except they really just want to shoot. Like, Jim Lee needs the royalties, I guess, is really what it comes down to. Is he just really needs some extra cash in his pocket? I guess because he knows his time is very limited now that AT&T has taken over. So it's like, we're sticking Grifter. Yeah, exactly. We're sticking Grifter in the Batman books. We're sticking the Authority into the Superman books. Try to get as many checks written as possible before they shove them out the door. And so, I mean, that's the story. And then he mentions in his story at one point, and then Mr. Miracle's going to wonder what happened to me. And it's like, he doesn't care. And neither do any of us. And then we get, I forget who the fake Superman of the Authority was, Apollos or Apollyon or whatever his name was. He shows up at the end, and apparently he's the one who's making the fake kryptonite stuff because he's the villain. He's the bad guy. So, okay, I get, and they don't know each other, I guess, now in the future state of the DC universe. Or okay, fine. I don't care. So anyway, moving on. Then the last story is the Black Racer. If anybody remembers the Black Racer from the Fourth World books, it was a guy who wore a suit of armor and he was on skis and he was like the Angel of Death, which was a character that never made any sense. But hey, he was a Jack Kirby creation, so everybody just went with it. And then, but it's not about that Black Racer. There's a different character, and she is on Warworld, and she pilots this mech, and this mech runs, and so she runs in this mech, and so she's known as the Black Racer. And then she's about to crash, and you see the face of the Black Racer appear, and she's like, "What?" And then she dies. But then she wakes up, and then she's alive again when they're getting ready to like use her body for parts and break it down for the biomatter and whatever. So then she grabs a bunch of slaves and is trying to lead a revolt, and they're all trying to escape. And you're like, okay, interesting, I guess, but what does that have to do with the Black Racer? Like, we saw his face in one panel because she died. So he like killed her because that's his thing. He's like the Angel of Death, but then she woke up, so he failed. Is she the new Black Racer? Is she now going to go around taking people's souls for what? We don't know. Like, there's no conversation between them. There's no explanation. There's no like you shall now be the one who takes the souls, and then she becomes the one. She now has the power of the Black Racer or anything. No, it's just she wakes up and he's gone. He's never seen again, and she's like trying to free the slaves and lead this revolt, and never comes up again. And I'm baffled. Like, I'm just completely at a loss. Like, it's one of these things. And the only reason, here's the only reason why I bought it. Because like I'm at the store and I'm like flipping through it, and I'm just like, this is terrible. Like, I'm looking at it going, this is terrible. And I just keep turning the page, and it's like a train wreck. And like, it's so bad. I'm flipping through it, and I just keep flipping through it, and I just keep flipping through it. And finally, Damien's like, hey, this isn't a library. And I'm like, fine. Like, I've got three comics at this point. I've got 3 old comics this week. Fine, I'll buy it. So I have 4 old comics this week.
I got a question for you, Dirk, before you get to your last book.
Yeah.
And this question goes to the whole panel. If you've been at a comic book store recently, how are the really expensive, kind of overstuffed future state books selling? Because at least anecdotally, from my experience over the last month that these books have been out, I haven't really seen too much movement of the really big ones. I've seen more movement out of the smaller ones, the ones that only have one story in them. So I don't know what your store has been experiencing.
I can tell you,
it's only been like 2 weeks, mind you. Like, the first slate of books only just came out last week.
Well, it's 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
No, it's 3 weeks.
Yeah. I can tell you from the 3 stores that we have in town. I've gone to all 3 of them. I talked to all the owners. The books that are like Batman, everybody's interested in Batman.
Right.
That's just because it's Superman, people are just like, it's whatever. Like, they'll just kind of wait and see what happens. With Wonder Woman, just because it's a new young Wonder Woman and the artwork is fantastic. So a lot of people wanted to buy it just because they think it's one of those books. Like, someone said, oh, look, this is DC's new Miles Morales. I'm going to buy a couple of these because these are going to be worth something in 5 years. And it's like, I don't, like, okay, invest away, buddy. I wouldn't go that far, but the artwork is fantastic. Is really nice in that book. But for the most part, it just seems like the pandemic hurt. All the stores are saying the pandemic hurt. Once people broke out of that every Wednesday, walking in, grabbing your books, walking out, breaking that cycle, it detoxed people. Like, it broke the habit. They kicked the habit. They got clean for a lot of them, and they were able to just stop going. And for a lot of people, like a lot of the books that they wanted are just gone. The characters that they liked are now gone. The future state is wiping out, stuff that they liked and characters that they liked. There was one guy in particular that bought the Superman stuff, but he really liked the secondary characters. He really liked Superboy and Supergirl, and those type characters more than Superman himself.
Right.
But those books, like the Young Justice and Supergirl and whatever, like gone. Like those books are not around anymore.
I was really asking more about the price point, because it's the price point, I think, that drives away the people who are impulse buyers. All the stuff, all the stuff that you stated, is more than likely, gigantic factors in what's driving comic book sales now, or what's driving them down. But in terms of the price point, I always, always, always shy away from anything that's upwards of $10. I don't know what it is. Right. It doesn't matter if I can afford it or not. I look twice at it. If there's one thing I regret, is not getting that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Last Ronin book, because that was good. I regret that. That first printing, I loved reading it, but I regret not getting it, even though it looked weird and it was expensive. But that's an outlier. That is, something where you see it and you can kind of justify the cost, but you're looking at an $8 book and you're like, what am I getting for this? And that's really what I was trying to get at, like whether or not those books are actually moving.
Yeah, well, here's the other thing is that a lot of the stores didn't order that heavy on them.
Right.
So the stores around me, one store in particular, he said he didn't order more than 10 of any of the books, because whereas before the pandemic and everything, he would have ordered 40, 50 copies of stuff like Superman and Batman and whatever. Now with Future State, he said he ordered like 10 of Batman. He ordered 10 of Superman. He ordered 10 of Wonder Woman. And then the other stuff like Swamp Thing, Teen Titans, whatever, he's ordering like 4 or 5 because it's there's no interest from the people who've been buying the books for years. And those high ticket books, especially, he ordered much smaller on, because there will be some, I think like the Superman World of Metropolis or whatever that one's called, that's a $3.99 one. And people are more willing to pick that up just because it's $4, whatever. But yeah, these big ones that are $7.99, I hear people walk in and look at it and they're always just like, poof, and they put it right back.
Okay.
Because the value, it's tough a lot of times to see the value in paying $4 for the comic you're getting. And it's so much harder, even if it's a $60 book with 4 stories, like you've got to have some banging stories to justify $7.99 and 60 pages. And like this, my first, like if I'm a customer, maybe I've been away from comics for a while, it's like, oh, Future State's a thing, whatever, I'm going to go check it out. If I was a customer walking in out of the cold and the first thing I bought was this Superman Worlds at War, and I paid $7.99 for this book, I'd be like, I'm done. Like I just paid $8 for a book that had 4 stories, and I got 3 panels of Superman out of a Superman comic.
Right.
Like, terrible. But yeah, that price point makes it really, and especially the variants. All the stores around me, if they order the variants, they will take the variant and then just mark it up by $1 and put it in a bag and board with a sticker. So this book is $7.99. They had the variant cover for $8.99.
Wow.
And nobody wanted, like I said something to one of the guys at one of the there's a shop that it's more of like magic cards and role-playing games, but he does have comics. And I go in and talk to him every once in a while, and I stopped in and talked to him, and he had like 5 of the variants sitting on the shelf, and he's like, I'm gonna have those books forever. He said, I'm never gonna sell those. Those are gonna be on my shelf until the end of time.
It's too bad. All right. And you got your last book?
Well, I was gonna say before we go any further, I want to say that, like, the Future State stuff is probably kind of a sale at this point, but at the same time, it would be interesting to know what different people in different areas what it's like in there. Obviously, so if anybody out there wanna have any thoughts about how things are going, how selling on the future state stuff in the area, please drop us a line. See Ron on Twitter or any of our social. I know I will say though the definitely the future state stuff, even though you definitely get a lot of story for the stuff like kind of like our proposition, some of that stuff. Yeah, with a lot of stuff, or at least within itself in a lot of cases, some stuff kind of seems kind of going off of something, but maybe it's connecting. Don't necessarily know just yet. But also, we're still getting a good bit of stuff for your proposition is what it is.
Well,
I guess.
yeah, and even I'll say, like, I enjoyed the Swamp Thing book. Like, I enjoyed that one a lot, and it was only a $3.99 one, so I took a gamble on it. Because again, I only had like 4 books, whatever. So I was like, I'll try it. I really enjoyed it because I recognized the writer. I thought this was a lot of fun, but the problem is, in 2 months, it's over, and then we're back in current time. So even though I enjoyed the post-apocalyptic story of Swamp Thing set, 400 years in the future or whatever it is, it's gone after the next issue, which is a shame, because if they said that was going to be a Swamp Thing ongoing series or 12-issue series or whatever, I would be interested in reading it, because that was really well done. Now, it also helps, though, that I do recognize the writer, because some of this other stuff, I look at it and it's like, who is this guy? And I grab my phone and I look at it and it's like, wrote, some animated movie for WB animation. It's like, oh yeah, nah, I'll pass, whatever, because I'm not that interested, because I watch a lot of those. Well, I don't anymore, but when they first started coming out, it's like, ooh, look at all these animated movies, but then I watch them and it's like, they're so different from the comics. I don't like them.
For no reason.
Because
let's not talk about
because I like the
joke.
I like the Killing Joke was one of the worst, where they made those massive changes. But yeah, it's like I like the comics, and if you're gonna make an animated, you would think, of all people, WB, who owns DC Comics, if WB is making their own animated movie based off their own comics, they should be able to make it 100% or even 90%. Like, maybe you want to cut out some of the subplots that tie into the issues that came right before, or the issue of Justice League that spins off, whatever. Like, okay, that's fine. You want to take out nobody knows who Fire and Ice from Justice League International are, fine, cut them out of the story. That makes sense. But you watch these animated movies and they change so much of the story, and it's just like, I don't like these. Like, I don't want to watch them anymore. I've got HBO Max and they're like, hey, check out all this DC stuff. And every so often I kind of flip through that section. I'm just like, no.
I give it a shot once in a while. But all right.
All right,
Dart,
yeah,
you just take care of that one last book, or we're gonna say goodbye?
Well, wait, before I do my final book. Oh, I was just gonna say goodbye.
Yeah,
he
we're
left.
gonna say Classic had to leave because his time was with us for short. Appreciate Classic for coming through. Hopefully we'll have him back again soon at some point.
Okay, but my final book then, Courier. This is actually from Zenescope, of all places. I enjoyed the first series, and I think the first series was my click for 1 or 2 of the issues, at least, from the first series, Ashes to Ashes, that came out a couple years ago. This is the Courier, Liberty and Death. I thought it was Liberty or Death, but no, it's Liberty and Death. This is a post-apocalyptic future story. A virus has wiped out most of humanity. There are these pockets of people that still exist in these towns, and there are these crazy mutant things in between. And so the couriers basically exist to take needed items from one area to another area. So they get paid a lot of money to take people or medicine or weapons or whatever it is from one town to another town, and they have to travel through these treacherous places. And so, of course, with it being one of these stories, it's what they're transporting is never quite what it seems to be. And the first series was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it quite a bit. And they came out with the second series. It's really good. I want to recommend this book to people. If you can find a shop that has this, I would recommend picking it up because it is a fun story. She's got a little drone that has AI, very similar to Skeets, that follows around Blue Beetle, that she can send out to do some scouting and report back. And it's, if you want to say there's like a Walking Dead type vibe, the way that these towns are out in the middle of nowhere, and then you've got the dead areas in between. There's always, little bits of humanity still trying to scavenge. There's, that Mad Max feel, whatever you want to throw in there, that idea of people living in the ruins and trying to rebuild society. But there's a lot of action and a lot of fun. There's kind of that 80s action movie vibe to it, with the way that she gets into fights and has to fend for herself, and then as it turns out, she's always ending up protecting somebody else because they're too stupid to figure out what's going on, or too feeble, or caught in a trap, and she's there to rescue them. So it's a really well done series, and I'm glad that they brought it back for another mini series, because the way the first series ended, it kind of wrapped everything up nicely, and you were like, wow, that's kind of way too nice. And then you find out at the beginning of this one, it didn't wrap up as nicely as you thought. Things that seemed to go, so perfectly at the end of the last one, well, she kind of got stabbed in the back a little bit by a few things. And so it's a fun follow-up to the last series, and I highly recommend it.
All righty.
Got mine kind of prepared. Let me go ahead and get mine.
Oh, I'll chime in on anything I read.
Yeah, because I know there's a. So let's see. We got Iron Fist, Heart of the Dragon, written by Larry Hama, artist David Watcher, colorist Nira Menon, and letters by VC Travis Lanham. So Hayes back, and this is pretty much setting up the fact that Danny and Fu, who I'm not sure who the person was. I know this had some that one particular one series. But they take a little trip to the seven heavenly cities, arrive into a bit of scuffle. A taskmaster and a lot of bigger words than Iron Fist is spouting off in the last few years come along for the ride. Luke babysitting Pay was pretty cute, and it all kind of goes into bigger thing that something heaven troubles going on in Iron Fist going to get miniseries. I'm not sure how long this miniseries is going to be. I remember when we talked about it announced, but
I am not sure. I can just say that I did read this. I did notice what you were referring to when it comes to the vocabulary that Danny Rand was wielding in this issue. Shout out to Larry Hama. I kind of got a kick out of that, and it's nice to see him getting some mainstream comic work at Marvel.
Yep. Cable number 7, written by Jerry Duggan, art by Phil Noto, which is always lovely. Lettering by VC's Joe Sabino. Did you read this one?
I did.
Okay, cool. So Healed Up Cable is back on his original mission, but not in King in Black, as something we read last week may or may not have alluded to. This time, Rachel's joining Cable on the search, and an old enemy that is seemingly behind us is going to find out. Which, Cable is only going to be a couple of people, but it's the one closest to him. Scott keeps coming in for emotional support, and I'm loving it. And we're about to see, a classic sort of X-Force.
Yeah, that's pretty much what's teased at the end of the issue.
I don't know if you got anything else on that.
Nope. Go ahead.
X-Force number 16. I do know you did read this one.
Yes.
Written by Benjamin Percy, art by Joshua Cassara, color is by Guru EFX, and letters by VC Joe Caramanga. See a little bit more. We get into a little bit more about that Krakoan mutation thing that happened last issue. So that attacked the island, and of course, Beast has that look in his eye when discovery happens, where you think he's getting weaponized. But the crux of the issue is basically Forge, Wolverine, and Quentin Quire going down underneath the ocean near Krakoa and trying to excise the cause of the problem. Which, of course, if we're dealing with anything underwater, you know who shows up, and actually helps.
Right,
Surprisingly.
right, or at least puts a delay on maybe dealing with this issue that comes up as a result of something happening to Krakoa. You know, this
Right.
mutation or whatever that causes some zombified U.S. sailors to wash up on Krakoa's shores. I just wanted to mention that it's Dr. Cecilia Reyes who sticks up for what shouldn't be done.
Mm.
Who sticks up for what should be done and against what should not be done, and reminds Beast, hey, you need to chill with this stuff that you keep trying to do, because Beast is getting a little bit too mad scientisty for everyone's sake.
Much. That being said, and yeah, I'm going to wonder if that person who shows up near the end of the book is going to, I assume, is going to come back up at some point. Gotta wonder. Going to play into something else going forward, which would make sense. Transformers 27, written by Brian Buckley, art by Michael Ossio, colors by David Garcia Cruz, letters by Jake M. Wood. So Skylink shows up apparently. And there's a Cybertronian named after a sausage. We don't know. I don't know why I put that in my notes, but regardless, a crew of Autobots are on the way to help take back a moon that's seemingly been, well, at least somebody was trying to take over in the last couple of issues. From the Rise, formerly known as the Rise, but not known as Decepticons, but apparently this message yet. And the engineers they're holding ground, Home Alone style base. Also maybe something to do with Transformers Escape, which is another miniseries that's come out recently that might have something to do with this. I know it definitely does come off of it, but and everybody heads back to Cybertron for the big deal, except for Cosmos for some. I don't know, Dirt, are you reading this book?
No.
Okay.
I was reading the Transformers books a couple of years ago, but then they did that thing where they had, like, I don't know, 16 books coming out a month, and I could not keep up.
They might be starting to get back to that point, but at least there've been like more miniseries than just actual ongoing. Like this is the only ongoing that they have, and definitely rolling out a lot of my last couple of books, Future State, The Next Batman #2, written by John Ridley, art by Laura Braga, breakdowns by Nick Darrington, colors by Arif Prianto, and letters by Clayton Cowell. I may have said it before, but Future State feels like they mixed Outlawed and Forest tie-in. The holds true definitely in this case. The new Bat tries to figure out who's behind the hit, while his mom is trying to figure out how to fight the law, going after costume folks. And as I believe Agent 70 said before the show, he's definitely having a Punisher-esque dilemma on him going into that. But also, let's see, find out that Foxtech is behind the Metatron's weapon, which that should definitely come up in another book. And the backup story has to do with Cassandra Cain and Spiller behind bars. Things aren't always that one. Then there was another Gotham City Sirens back on after. Last but not least, Future State, Immortal, Wonder. Wait, did anybody read that one actually? The next Batman 2?
Oh, I did, but you covered it all.
Okay. Future State, Immortal Wonder Woman #1, written by Becky Cloonan and Michael W. Conrad, art by Jim Bartell, letters by Pat Brousseau. And the backup story was written by L.O. McKinney, art by Inez, letters Mark Morales, and colors by Emilio. Jen Bartel art is. It does feel like a little bit more of an all ages book with the art though, but it's still pretty great. And it's set, like we kind of alluded to it just earlier, it was kind of seemed to be set in a future time, because, and also said that Swamp Thing comes up in a capacity. Feels like Diana fighting very end of the earth of the world, and there's something allusion to an undoing, which I thought might have something to do with nice death metal, but I'm not entirely sure. But we do see what that and Darkseid shows also as a part of that. As far as the backup story, which is Nubia, we've found out that Nubia is on the hunt for some artifact that may be closer to her than she realizes after running with Grail. And I don't know, I made a note here about the Aunt Nancy's that she's supposed to see. Supposed to be Nancy, I suppose. Looks like CC Calendar. And that is it for me.
All right. I just wanted to mention I was flipping through that Future State Immortal Wonder Woman just now, and there's like a hint of King in Black in here in the in Jen Bartel art in the first story. That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Just reading these things together, it's kind of like, oh, that looks familiar. All right, I will run through the last of my books. Roddykat covered one of them. First up for me is Killadelphia Number 12. This is an image book written by Rodney Barnes, art by Jason Sean Alexander, and colors by Louise Nicht. The
Before
end of
you
the
get
story.
going too much, I might have to sign off.
Okay.
Hey,
Tim,
Past my bedtime.
joining us.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Wait,
Thanks
do you
for
have
having
a
me.
click? Do you have a click first?
I'll go Avengers 41. That's the number.
Okay.
Yeah, 41.
Gotcha.
Sounds good.
See you, gang.
Many thanks, Tim.
Peace.
Talk to you soon.
Peace.
Peace. All righty. Back to Killadelphia Number 12. It's written by Rodney Barnes with art by Jason Sean Alexander and colors by Louise Nicht. As I said, it's the end of the second story arc, which ends in a nice cliffhanger involving the Addams family. Given that they are vampires, it's okay to make the joke. And what may come of the potential vampire takeover of Philly. The backup story featuring werewolves takes a decided turn towards a future crossover into the main story. Next up is Future State Nightwing Number 1. It's written by Andrew Constant with art by the awesomely cool Nicola Scott, colors by Ivan Placencia. Nightwing is the head of the mask resistance against the Magistrate, and the book opens with a confrontation between Nightwing and the new Peacekeepers of Gotham. The Future State Batman finds Nightwing to convince him they should work together, but Nightwing has seemingly drawn the Magistrate's forces to drive a confrontation between them. So that's the last book that I have. I just wanted to mention that it seems to me, at least, and obviously I'm not reading all of Future State, but it seems to me that at least the Batman corner of the DC universe is keeping fairly cohesive and going into the somewhat near future, based on where the Tinian books had kind of wrapped up before Future State, with Mayor Nakano or Nagano. I think, I'm not sure, I can't remember if it's Nakano or Nagano, but because Nagano's a city, but I think it's Nakano. But it seems like this corner of the DCU has chosen to go into what was kind of a natural progression into Future State, and telling what seems to be maybe not several years, but definitely a few years. I know that the tease is at the beginning of these Batman corner of the Batman books, that is, say that it's several years, but several can mean 3. So it's hard to, it just seems like very much a natural progression from where they ended up at the end of the regular run of the books before the pause for Future State. And that's it for me. So we'll get to clicks of the week, huh?
Yep. Got Tim's already with the 21. Got theirs, which I know yours.
Yeah, and if you couldn't gather it from my review, it would be the Courier, Liberty, and Death #1.
All right.
let's-
Yeah, I think mine's pretty easy. It's the one I had the most fun with, even though I did enjoy Avengers number 41, and that's Black Cat #2.
I think I might actually definitely was. You know, Avengers being what it is, and that was good. And Iron Fist book was actually not bad either.
Oh, it was fun. I read it, but I just didn't have a chance to really sit down and write out some notes on it. But yeah, it was good.
Yeah, definitely check that out. But I'm going to be going with it. 70. And also, I see somebody wrote down. I'm assuming, is this you, Dirt, with the Star Wars the back issue thing, or who the back issue thing?
Oh yeah.
So which and one of the very few times that someone's actually written anything in this section. Apparently, Dirt's read has caught up with the Star Wars Darth Vader stuff. What you thinking? Are you saying? Well, you say what you say in here, but current series stuff. Cool. Yeah, I've been enjoying it so far. Anything else?
Oh, I didn't realize I was muted. I was trying to talk. I didn't realize I was muted.
Yeah, I was just saying, I'm like, is he saying something? I can't
right.
tell.
Yeah. So just because I've had not a whole lot to read, and I kind of started in the pandemic, but then I didn't realize that Darth Vader #2 was a much sought after book. I didn't realize that it now goes for like $15-20 on eBay because Padme's lookalikes started showing back up, and that's apparently a big deal. Yeah. So it took me a while to eventually I found like a second print of #2 because they brought out more of those, and so then I was able to get caught up. But I got done reading all of those, and I read just the Star Wars and Darth Vader. I did not read the Dr. Aphra or the Bounty Hunters or any of the other whatevers. Just read those two titles. And I got to say, I really like both of those series. I think the artwork in Star Wars is a lot better than what's been in Darth Vader. And I think the story in Star Wars overall is a little tighter. And it's a lot more... I want to say it moves better, I think, than Darth Vader. Darth Vader, I think, is getting bogged down too much in the details, and it's taking a lot longer to work through the storyline. So it's one of those things where 8 or 9, I think 9 is the one that just came out, and it feels like it's like maybe 2 weeks have gone by or something like that. Whereas opposed to Star Wars, it's 10 or 11, whatever, just came out, and then it's been a couple weeks, several weeks, month, 2 months, whatever. So it's just one of those things where the story, it just bogged down in the stuff. But I was really impressed at how well they tied everything together. They brought in a lot of the prequel stuff, and I was just at first like, do we really have to go back to all of this? But they brought it in right after Empire Strikes Back, and tied in a lot of that prequel stuff, and it just worked, and it felt right. Like it made sense the way they tied a lot of that stuff back together, because the confrontation between Vader and Luke at the end of Empire was a big deal. That was a game changer. And then the Darth Vader series goes one way, and the Star Wars series goes another way. But then the Star Wars series doesn't just stick on Luke. Like, it's got a whole story with Leia, and it's got Lando Calrissian and Chewie coming back, and it's got, C-3PO is doing his stuff. And, it just does a really good job of juggling and balancing all the different characters and making sure that everybody's got a story from the whole ensemble of characters. So I was really impressed with how good those two series are. So I was like, put these on my list. I've dumped so much other stuff lately, and stuff has been canceled that I've been reading that I've really enjoyed. So yeah, put these on my list. I'm going to be reading these two from now on, at least for the time being. These are great. So I'm definitely looking forward to having these in my pull box from now on.
Yeah, where the place where you said they started from, like talked about, was definitely the most logical place for them to come off of. And yeah, even the stuff they've done with like the side characters that they've been like pushing up to the front a little bit more has been pretty good. Like Poe's mom and dad, and some of the other people, in the Resistance outside of Luke, Leia, and the crew, and some good stuff. You hadn't checked out the High Republic stuff, have you?
No, and I probably won't. I'm not really into like the whole expanded universe and all of that stuff. I enjoyed The Mandalorian, but that was mainly because it was really a Western. And it just happened to have laser guns and stuff, but it wasn't like it was Star Wars, but it wasn't Star Wars. And I think that's why I enjoyed it so much. The same way I enjoyed Krypton season 1 a lot. The Krypton season 2 was like jumping the shark, though. That was like Cousin Owen showing up in season 2 of Krypton. But Krypton season 1 was just a sci-fi show on this alien planet that it tied into Superman, but it really wasn't a Superman thing. It wasn't a DC Comics thing. It just happened to be on Krypton, but it really wasn't about all of that so much as it was just like a cool sci-fi show. And so I think that's why I enjoyed it. So like going back to what we were talking about earlier with the Warner Brothers animation and stuff, it's like I think I like stuff like Mandalorian, and I like the first season of Krypton because they tied into, but they didn't really. They weren't trying. They changed so much, but they weren't trying to really be an adaptation of anything. They were just kind of doing their own, kind of off on their own. And I don't like whenever I try to do something like the games Jedi Outcast and a lot of that kind of stuff. I'm just looking at it going like, it's like there's a guy who's like kind of like Han Solo, but he's got like this lightsaber or Shadows of the Empire or whatever,
Yeah.
and it's just like, like I'd rather play with those characters if that's what I'm doing. If you're gonna put me in that universe, either give me those characters or give me something completely different somewhere else. And so I don't look forward to anything else really from the Star Wars universe. I just plan on sticking with like these are, this is my trilogy. These are my characters. I'm sticking with these books.
But there's some other good stuff out there, though. That being the case, though, so we're just finished Clicks of the Week. We were going to an ad read before we hit this.
And that will be time for my traditional leave because it is time for my bedtime.
Okay, not a problem.
Time for my nighty nights. So thank you for having me.
Not a problem, good sir.
Thanks for joining.
So I'll be back for, I guess, number 800 then.
Come on, there's always the year-end show.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
I mean the 2020 year-ender.
But shouldn't the 2020 recap have been the first episode of 2021?
Nah.
Oh,
no.
Look at how long it's to fill out the sheets.
Yeah,
no, I mean, it's like
fair enough.
As long as we don't do it like we did, well, as long as we do it as long as we get it out by June with
Oh, are we doing it like fiscal year? Is that how it works?
we work it like that. Yes.
All right,
fair enough. Thanks, guys. I'll see you later.
Later.
All
right, ad read.
All right. Our first ad read of the night is for Funko, Fun at First Sight. It's your home for exclusive collectibles, such as their world-famous pop vinyl bobbleheads, apparel including t-shirts, hats, and socks, and brand merchandise, such as custom DIY pop figures, art books, and skateboards. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase when shopping at Funko. To place your first order with 10% off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Funko link and place your order. When you get to the checkout, put in the offer code SHOP10 for your 10% off discount. Funko through cspn.us. Do it today. Now we get into the news.
And we start off like we do every week with the cinematic news. First off, we got some new details, including fatalities and such, on the new Mortal Kombat reboot. So new details and first look images have been released for the upcoming Mortal Kombat movie, which will debut in theaters and on HBO in April. Entertainment Weekly first offered fans a closer look at the R-rated movie, while WD Pictures have provided official photos you can see below in this article, which you can find in our show notes, which features a cast of ferocious fighters, including Mikad Brooks as Jax Brooks. You might know him, Olsen on Supergirl. Chin Han as Shang Tsung, Hiroyuki Sanada as Scorpion, which almost made me excited because I was thinking, like, wait, they got him back, but it's not the same person I'm thinking about. Joel Taslim as Sub-Zero, which is also a book. Tadanobu Asano as Raiden, Ludi Lin as Liu Kang, Cece Stringer as Melina, Josh Lawson as Kano, Jessica McNamee as Sonya Blade, Max Huang as Long Lao Max, and Louis Tan as an all-new character, to which we find out in the course of this during the synopsis he's playing an MMA fighter who gets wrapped up in, or as this article says, a washed-up MMA fighter named Cole Young who apparently bears a birthmark in the shape of the Mortal Kombat symbol on his chest. That's a hell of a birthmark to have. And gets him wrapped up into the whole Mortal Kombat scene. I don't know. Still seems interesting. We'll see how it goes. Next up,
Apparently WandaVision's home address is a quiet but critical nod to Marvel's, spoiler alert, multiverse. So since WandaVision kicked off last week with 2 episodes, what was revealed is that on their home street in Westview, Wanda and Vision live at number 2800, which seems to allude to the idea that the MCU superheroes live on Earth 2800 in the larger Marvel multiverse, just like the regular Marvel comic book characters live on Earth 616. So in Tom King's and Gabriel Hernandez Walter's The Vision Limited series that we all really liked and appreciated, that series, which does provide some inspiration for WandaVision, in that series, the address that they were living at in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. was number 616. So it seems like that might definitely be an allusion to where they are in the greater Marvel multiverse.
Yeah. So this article kind of goes and I feel like makes a stretch with another illusion that they.
That's why I keep going.
Huh?
I said that's why I didn't keep going.
Yeah, but I just wanted to bring it up. So I know, so slight spoiler for WandaVision season 2, but it's also dealing with that number 2800. They make an allusion to another thing that shows up in the show, but it's not necessarily as they say it is, or at least they're making it out to be. Where this is also another allusion to 2800 when a certain watch shows up, and it shows the time. And they make sure to point out that it's pointing to two numbers, well, the 2 and 8, which it doesn't. So, but they're basically saying that this and that, what you mentioned, all illusion, possible place in the multiple. That was good with the first one. That second one, not so much. I don't think, because the time doesn't say what you're alluding out to be. But regardless. Hopefully, if you're watching WandaVision, we didn't spoil anything for you too much. But I will also say that in our show notes, there is a couple of Easter egg videos from Screen Crush that if you've watched the show, they point out some things that may or may not be the case, but some of it seems to be have some legs. And there's even a theory in there to which I didn't really take too much note into, but I wish Tim Stale had been there because I would have loved how he came across that one. Also, but there's an allusion made as to who may or may not be behind things, as opposed to what some of us believe case going back to certain other Marvel events. But that's in the show notes. Next up, though, speaking of WandaVision, WandaVision's tiniest Easter egg begs you to behold a huge Marvel debut. So, apparently during the water cooler events vignette I believe was in the first episode. It says if one squints hard or blows up the image, they can make out a 5-7 on the upper right corner of the cooler, which looks like a model number, which is actually a nod to Avengers number 7, which is Vision. I didn't notice that. There's actually a few things I didn't notice, but I looked at that screen push video that I thought I was just told you about, and other stuff. They also kept alluding to some person that's in the background of that shot that I don't know who the person was supposed to be. But apparently, it looks like to one of the movies, but they don't call him that by a name outside of the name they give. I don't know what the thing is about that, but it is what it is. As you can see, if you're watching the video version of this, you can see the folks at CPR pointed out in question, which is actually pretty cool. I love they've been throwing little things like that. And there are some things I have noticed, but some of the stuff that I hadn't, which actually makes me want to go back and watch it again. I don't know about you.
I might at the end. When it's all said and done, I might go back and take a look for that stuff. Next up, apparently Paul Bettany was speaking to IMDb and revealed that there was a stinger setting up Marvel Phase 4 originally planned with that was going to reveal details post Endgame. The stinger was going to be set up after Endgame, and it would have set up WandaVision. Bettany outlined the scrap tag, saying that at one point there was going to be a tag where the Scarlet Witch opened a body bag drawer, and there was the Vision. What is not known is that why this post-credit scene was left on the cutting room floor, other than Bettany explaining that it was Kevin Feige who decided to pull the shot. Okay.
Yeah, which would also probably seem out of the body bag drawer. So anyway, we won't go into all. I do with these replica wedding rings from WandaVision. So that's probably also a spoiler, but it's also a spoiler. Trailer, if you've seen any of the trailers. Fans will soon have a chance to own a piece of merchandise inspired by WandaVision. No reality bending or android powers required. Basically, Entertainment Earth is selling a replica 3-piece set featuring the rings, Wanda Maximoff, and Vision. The rings are made with stainless steel and with Wanda's 2 rings measuring approximately woman's size 7 and Vision's ring size 10. Pardon me. The replica rings will go on sale at Entertainment Earth official website at Eastern Watch Hours. 5 days out. The complete set costs $bucks and quantities. I'll be out of luck. Next up.
All right. According to a report from The Hollywood Reporter, Ethan Hawke has been cast in the Disney Plus series Moon Knight, and he's going to star as the series' main villain opposite Oscar Isaac, who's set to portray Moon Knight. It's not clear which bad guy Hawke will play specifically. Not sure. My gut says that it's supposed to be Khonshu. That's who I think it is. I don't think it's going to be Bushman. I think it's going to be Khonshu.
Wouldn't necessarily be a bad guy, but I guess given that they have had contention with each other. Yeah, I was like, because I was sitting here thinking, like, does Moonlight have much of a roster outside of folks that didn't come from other places?
You got me.
Yeah,
you got me. I'm not as well read on Moon Knight, and it's just that my original understanding of Bushman is that he's a person of color as well. Mm-hmm. So I would hope Marvel doesn't go down that road of with this character by casting Ethan Hawke there. But at the same time, given the recent emphasis on Khonshu in the last several Moon Knight miniseries, as opposed to Bushman.
Well, I mean, pretty much any of them, really.
But like specifically the last several. miniseries have really dealt with Khonshu's influence. But as you said, that's always been the case. But I think more so recently than even when Moon Knight was kind of super heroic in the 90s.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's really that I my gut says that's where a lot of the influence is probably going to come from. So we'll see.
I mean, Khonshu, even if it's not as the bad guy, Khonshu definitely should show up.
Right.
I'm definitely agree. All right. She-Hulk, Disney Plus series cast Jennifer Walters' best friend, which is kind of weird to me. I'll get into that in a second. She-Hulk continues to fill out this cast with the addition of the actor who will play Jennifer Walters' best friend. Ginger Gonzaga will play the character whose star has not been officially named. Gonzaga will be teaming up with Tatiana Maslany, who praised it. Deadline was the first to report that Gonzaga to hire of the series, and as usual, Marvel doesn't comment on the report. So here's my thing: at later series of or at least in the last say, let's say 10 years, I guess, or something like that, She-Hulk has pretty much been running around with Patsy Walker. So there's a Patsy Walker from the net. So curious if the person is going to be Patsy Walker, or is it someone else that I may remember from past? So I guess we'll find out at some point.
Next up, Marvel's Behind the Mask documentary is going to air on Disney Plus. They're going to debut a new documentary in February, which explores the power of identity via its heroes and creators. Marvel's Behind the Mask is going to feature multiple guests, including the creators behind several Marvel heroes like the X-Men and the newest Spider-Man, Miles Morales. The interviews will highlight the 80 years of cultural impact Marvel has had on pop culture. The documentary is directed by Michael Jacobs and produced by Chris Gary and Ryan Simon for Tarmac Creative and Strike Anywhere. Okay, many of Marvel's executives, including Joe Quesada and Stephen Wacker, will also produce the documentary. Okay.
Cool. Actually, there is someone I think they could probably do for that She-Hulk thing, but they were not necessarily friends. But yeah, this is kind of cool too. Next up, Daredevil actor Charlie Cox is reportedly filming scenes for Spider-Man. Stretch reportedly, because I know some people are taking it happening. According to comicbook.com's podcast Phase Zero, one quote-unquote very good source who supposedly also tipped him off to Owen Wilson appearing in Loki has revealed that Charlie Cox has on the set Spider-Man 3. Anything if that's the rumors have been out there about Spidey representation and that. So I mean, I kind of hope this is true, but how it goes. And it also says here is that at the early stage is not known whether he's going to play the Netflix Man Without Fear or even playing him at all. There's even a chance Matt Murdock could be drafted in to help protect Tom Holland's Peter Parker in the way Far From Home ending. And we're hoping there won't be a brand new Daisy. That's just me putting that in.
Next up, Chris Hemsworth begins filming Thor: Love and Thunder this week. He shared a family vacation photo with fans before filming the latest Asgardian tale in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He posted on Instagram, "Great to get away for a few days to visit Lord Howe Island before starting on hashtag Thor: Love and Thunder this week." So I did see this. I got a kick out of this. That it's fun that it's underway.
Speaking of Hemsworth, Extraction 2 update. The latest on the sequel to the Netflix most popular original movie. Anyway, reaching 99 million homes over its first 4 weeks, Netflix Extraction, which stars Thor actor Chris Hemsworth, was the popular Netflix time. or at least. So it makes sense that a sequel is currently in production, but many questions remain, like what the story would be. So that kind of ended a certain. Apparently, director Sam Hargrave, who made his feature directorial debut with Extraction, explained to Collider that the team remains on schedule to film the sequel here, pending in quote unquote. That's kind of everyone's little caveat right now, but we're moving forward on it. And if Russo, first one in is also right. Hargrove said, finalizing the script, right? Cool.
Next up, Ryan Watson, who serves as the stunt coordinator on the Disney Plus Star Wars series The Mandalorian, explained how a broken Darksaber prop resulted in Season 2's best fight sequence. Spoiler alert for The Mandalorian Season 2. Speaking with THR, Watson revealed how the typical half-sword prop used to safely film sword fights was broken by Giancarlo Esposito when he was fighting Din Djarin. So they ended up having to use a full sword, which makes the top end even heavier. So now the swings are a little bit harder. The intensity of the fight was probably the highest of both seasons. Giancarlo brought some real intensity to that fight. The stuntman playing Din Djarin finished one time and said that was like a real fight. He was truly ducking for his life. Esposito made it no secret in early 2020 that he destroyed several Darksaber props while filming Season 2. He said back then that he thinks he'd gone through three and a half already, but he goes at it. He's broken a few of them. The prop guys, they love him, but they go, man, you go all in. Watson corroborated this in this interview, saying that they were destroyed completely, like the Darksaber went down, and they're very expensive Giancarlo Esposito.
I wonder if we got to keep any of that. Probably not the broken ones.
That's funny. All right,
next up. Let's see. Great news, everybody! All 5 seasons of the Muppet Show are heading to Disney Plus.
That's good news.
Indeed. So it is because of the fact that if Disney owns the Jim Henson company. Well, one, I'm kind of surprised it took this long for this to happen, but it's coming next month. Anyway, everything that is coming to Disney Plus, with the exception of 2 things. Let's see, Muppets Take Manhattan and Muppets for Space. Those are the only 2 that are not going to be Sony. The Muppet Show, Muppets Most Wanted, the Muppet Movie, Muppet Treasure Island, the Muppet Christmas Carol, and the Muppet Show that was on TV a few years ago, and the Great Muppet Paper will all be on Plus next month, and I believe starting on the 19th. I saw.
Man, just a month too late for the Muppet Christmas Carol to hit screens, right?
I know, right? I'm like, I saw that. I was like, why did they not have that on there already? They already owned it.
Whatever timing just didn't work out. That is unfortunate.
Yeah, but hey, it'll be on there for next. unlike the Peanuts.
Right.
But yeah, but that's cool though, and like I said, I believe it is February 19th. Article. Cool. Next
up, a television show for one of Image Comics' biggest fan favorite titles, the horror anthology series Ice Cream Man, created by W. Maxwell Prince and Martin Morazzo, is still in the works. Okay. Despite the setbacks behind the scenes, Prince confirmed the television adaptation of the series is still happening. He can tell you that it definitely is not happening at Quibi. Prince tells CBR. He would say that the Ice Cream Man TV show is very much still alive. They're hoping to have more news very soon. It would have been, it was announced back in February 2020 for Quibi, but Quibi has since gone out of business.
And I think all that stuff is supposed to be moved over else. So The Boys season 3 is set to pushed the envelope further than ever before for a show that includes scenes involving everything from as-bombs to superpowered masturbation. That's saying something. The Boys creator Eric Kripke has taken to Twitter to reveal a title page for the 6th episode of The Boys season 3. It's one that Kripke said day one challenge met MFers. The title of the Jessica Cho written episode, Hero Gasm. Watching the video. And it says here, Hero Gasm is a storyline pulled straight from the comics. Once a year, Voight pulls out all the stops and conducts a fake story of Supes teaming up to face a global threat, so they can all head to a private island and have a massive orgy. Yep, that's a thing that's going to happen.
Nice.
Yeah, really. I still haven't watched The Boys. That's weird.
Interesting. I would recommend watching the first 2 seasons and then deciding whether or not you want to move on to season 3.
Yeah.
I think the first season was a lot stronger than season 2, but I think it's worth the time to watch because while you don't necessarily have to care about these characters, it's interesting to see the tropes that they write up and how they decide to set a lot of these characters against not even the timeline that they were in the comics, but against today's time. And I think that's really where it's interesting to see the contrast and to see these characters kind of put into a different setting.
Gotcha. Oh, cool. Yeah, I will definitely be checking it out.
Next up, James Gunn reveals the Suicide Squad is nearly finished. I added the because that's what differentiates it from the previous movie. But we'll have to wait for a trailer. James Gunn shared that the movie is almost finished. Although the upcoming DC sequel Soft Reboot comes out this summer, there's still no trailer, and Gunn has said good things are on their way, but we'll have to be patient for a while longer yet. The director shared the status update on Twitter, hat tip to Screen Rant, commenting that I am a hair's breadth away from being finished. Interesting.
Right.
And he also says, I know you want the trailer or the teaser or more news or who the baddie is. Parentheses, they all are the baddies, but also. But he just says he's working on cool stuff. Please be patient.
Right. And yeah, this was from people on Twitter asking them, and you can see right there watching the video version of this, which sometimes maybe you should. Good stuff.
We are not overproduced. I didn't have a chance to retort. We are not overproduced. It is definitely, we have definitely come a long way from our beginnings, our humble beginnings as the Comic Book Chronicles.
Indeed. Netflix provides update on Lupin 2 release date. So Netflix has updated fans on when Lupin 2 or Lupin Part 2, in the show's parlance, is expected to drop on the streaming service. A hit French heist thriller starring Omar Sy, or C, I'm not sure which, as gentleman thief Arsène Lupin, will release its next batch of episodes, quote unquote, later. That comes after Lupin's first 5 episodes were available to. I've seen the first episode of it. It's actually not bad, and it definitely wasn't what I thought it was going in. Kind of looking forward to 5 episodes. There's getting a season or part 2 of it. If you know of the character from the anime, or maybe you read the original books that it's based off of, then enjoy it. May enjoy it. Next up.
All right, next up, Avatar: The Last Airbender video shows how fight scenes were animated. A new video breaks down how Avatar: The Last Airbender created its excellent, authentic fight scenes. Thanks to its arrival on Netflix last summer, Avatar, God, last summer is still pandemic time. Jeez. Avatar has seen, because I know this from my own anecdotal experience, that several younger members of the extended family got into Avatar because it hit Netflix.
Right.
Avatar has seen a huge resurgence in popularity. The series aired from 2005 to 2008 on Nickelodeon, and to this day, it remains one of the most beloved animated shows of all time. Fans praised Avatar for its world building, character development, and compelling storylines. Perhaps one of the most intriguing bits of Avatar is the bending. Certain people within the four nations have the ability to bend or manipulate and control one of the four main elements. Um, each bending style is distinctive, and they are all based on a real life martial art form. Shared by Entertainment Insider on Friday, the clip puts a spotlight on Avatar Sifu Kisu, one of the martial artists who helped bring the show's fight scenes to life. Kisu and other martial artists would provide reference footage so the animators would understand how to best render the characters. Later, Giancarlo Volpe, who also worked on Avatar and was interviewed for the video, took to social media and listed off the best way to create authentic animated martial arts, which includes the extremely vital first step: hire martial artists. Bonus points if they are extra imaginative. Okay.
I maintain that Avatar, and I haven't seen Korra yet, but I imagine this holds up to. I know a lot of people like Korra over Avatar, but Avatar Last Bender is good stuff. Like, yeah, there's some stuff in the end of it that I wasn't about with certain characters, but nevertheless, it is very good TV. I still
It's on the list. A little list, but it's on the list.
indeed.
Just like Steve Rogers had it. I have my list in my little moleskin book.
Indeed, yes, you do, and I've seen this book. So I can absolutely confirm there's a physical book where he's putting stuff in.
Oh, I was about to say I can reach over for it now, but it's not important.
Yeah,
we
yeah,
definitely.
no.
All right, so
So
we're
now
going to transition over to comic book news.
Let's see. The White Queen from the X-Men corner of the universe, Marvel Universe specifically. The White Queen hints at the true father of a major mutant child. So so this is the spoilers for Marauder 17, which came out last week, that we did talk about, but we did not talk about this whole thing because it didn't seem like that. But does seem like something that's probably going to come up later at some point. So one consistent element of mutant powers in the Marvel Universe is how similar powers that can be when connected to family lines. The powers of the parent often carry over in some form of the children, even if it's a slightly different form of application. World of the X-Men, telepaths tend to have telepaths for children. She created her own. I put that in. Wolverine's children, actually, yeah, Wolverine's probably kind of the same situation, isn't it? But anyway, share his claws and healing factor, for example. This tendency may mean that one major family name could be built on a lie, as revealed in Marauders number 17. Emma Foss strongly suggests that Shinobi Shaw might not be the actual biological son of Sebastian Shaw. White Queen seems to have a working theory over who the actual father is. Who, I'll just go ahead and say, Harry Leland, one of the other former members of Hellfire, point still alive, but come back. Because I do remember that part of the issue where Emma was like, "Yeah, he's not back, but when he be back, I will be happy to introduce Harry Leland." And Shinobi Shaw was like, "Okay, great." So
I was about to say that definitely piqued my interest. So we'll see where that might go.
Right, and yeah, the fact that Emma brought it up, which obviously to stick it to Sebastian Shaw, but clearly bring it. That ends up being
Right.
Next up,
so mild spoilers. This is spoilers from the Chris Claremont anniversary special that we talked about last week. According to this issue, one of the most prevalent forces that appears in the modern Marvel universe has always had an opposite. And while Hela confronts Danny Moonstar, The Phoenix Force and Lady Death and Hela are quietly positioned as opposites, proving that the avatar of Death is a perfect nemesis for the Phoenix. Okay, it's interesting because Phoenix is supposed to be like life running wild.
And apparently, I missed an article that classic. Next up, let's see. Excalibur number 20 teases big ramifications for Betsy Braddock and Salak, and something that I've been kind of interested in knowing about what happened. Kind of was like, oh, here's this thing that happened to Betsy. Knew they were gonna eventually come back to it. We did. Marvel Comics has released the cover and advanced solicitation, which, by the way, I guess it's not time to point out that April solicitations are out for, I know, Marvel and I believe Image. So those will be in the show notes if you're inclined to check. But the cover and advanced solicitation for April's Excalibur number 20, written by Tini Howard and artist Marcus Toe, which continues the team's post Ten of Swords Adventures era. Cover of Excalibur number 20 may offer some clues as to the eventual fate of Excalibur's currently missing in action Braddock, which that's kind of funny. Braddock. Anyway, Captain Britain, who was transported to an alternate reality in Swords and is presumed dead by her team. Found that currently. This image by Mahmoud Asrar shows Rogue, Betsy, and Salat Kwanan struggling against a silhouetted foe. Satanai, ruler of Otherworlds, holds a grudge. Over right there. Watching the video version. Next up.
All right. T'Challa and Storm enter the symbiote saga with King in Black, Black Panther #1. So symbiotes invade the unconquerable country of Wakanda. T'Challa's most treasured allies are lost in a storm of Null's making. How does a king respond? Critically acclaimed writer, actor, and producer Jeffrey Thorne explores a Wakanda gone dark, invaded by Null's massive symbiote army. Wakanda needs its leader. It needs the Black Panther. But once again, the hero must choose between his role as an Avenger, his role as a king, and the yearnings of his heart. Okay. Join Jeffrey Thorne, artist Herman Peralta, who previously did the first Maestro miniseries, and colorist Jesus Albertov on February 10th for King in Black, Black Panther #1.
I feel like we kind of glimpse of, might have caught just a slight glimpse of it one, because there was some talk between, at least in that. It may not play into this, but anyway, here's the cover of that issue if you're so inclined. Next up is Darkhawk returns in 30th anniversary special, which sets the course for the future. Marvel Comics has announced plans to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the debut of the cult favorite 90s hero Darkhawk in April. One shot titled Darkhawk Heart of the Hawk. Heart of the Hawk brings back the original creators of Darkhawk's first title, writer Danny Fingeroth and artist Mike Manley, and lists several other creators for a series of tales that the publishers, quote unquote, will set up the hero for his right Marvel Comics. Some might know, created in 1991 by writer Tom DeFalco and artist Mike Manley, Darkhawk is a superhero. How a trouble, which I'm going to just stop right there and say that I'm fairly certain that we have had something last couple. Darkhawk. Can't remember. I know. Well, Powell was definitely around, and I can't remember. There was definitely one shot that original of the Dark Powers. But yeah, fans of Darkhawk, there you go. It got something. Got another one shot coming. Next up.
Gotcha. Next up, The final chapter of Donny Cates's and Ryan Stegman's Venom saga is here. It was announced a few days ago in an exclusive interview with IGN. The final issue of Donny Cates's and Ryan Stegman's hit run on Venom is going to arrive in April. The all-star creative team will be saying farewell to a character they helped redefine in a special milestone issue, Venom number 200. Their run's going to leave a lasting impact on not only on the character of Venom, but on the Marvel Universe as a whole. The landmark issue will pick up after the events of King in Black. And over the years, Cates and Stegman have torn Eddie Brock's life asunder while introducing new villains and uncovering long-hidden mysteries about the nature of symbiotes. Okay.
Yep, and you can see cover for Venom 200. Let's see. Oh, Spider-Man. Spider's Shadow reveals what happens when Peter Parker becomes Venom. So it's one if. Birth of Venom is easily one of the most iconic moments in iconic Spider-Man saga. But what if that story took a different turn? What if Pete Parker remained bonded to a symbiote costume, which I feel like they actually did, thereby becoming Venom instead of his rival Eddie Brock? That scenario will form the basis of a new alternate reality story. Shadow. Spider Shadow is the latest Spider-Man project from writer Chip Zdarsky, which I'm guessing that was what that who previously worked on Peter Parker, the Spider-Man, and the critically lauded Spider-Man life story. Zdarsky is teaming up with artist Pasquale Ferry from Thor, colorist Matt Hollingshed from Hawkeye, and cover artist Phil Noto from Star Wars. Check out Noto's cover so you can see there. Yeah, so I guess this is not a traditionally branded what if, but definitely going to be. Oh wait, no, it even says here. Yeah, so I guess it is going to be. Don't let's have the on and on there because it says down here at the bottom or the article. Noski says, "I'm thrilled to be kicking off a new era of what if story. Tale of Spider-Man gone bad. Okay, beginning. Will he have a goatee and no hyphen in his name? Pick up issue 1 and find out." Yeah, guess they're doing a what if without the banner. Not sure. Anyway, next up.
Next up, Marvel's Champions number 6 brings on a new creative team for a new era. Writer Danny Lore and artist Luciano Vecchio will take over as the creative team of Marvel's Champions ongoing title in April. They're going to be taking over for outgoing writer Eve L. Ewing and artists Bob Quinn and Simone DeMeo. They're going to be kicking off their run with a story called Killer App, which centers on the Champions trying to counter software designed to enforce Kamala's Law, which makes teen vigilantes illegal outside of government supervision. So it seems like Outlawed is still going to be going on at this point.
Yeah, I saw this article and I was like, what? Going on?
Yeah, it's hard to figure where this is supposed to be in the grand scheme of everything else going on in the Marvel universe.
Definitely. Yeah, and yeah, exactly. With Outlaw kind of got
Right. Sad to see Ewing leaving the title.
Exactly. That was exactly what I was about to say. Because yeah, she's doing some pretty good work on that. I'm definitely hoping turn and up Ironheart again.
Right.
Sure.
Considering that she chimed in on this, my guess is that she's going to be doing something else.
Right.
You know, that she's working on something. You know, that something is brewing.
I believe that is the case. Yeah, but we're not. What just something in works.
Right.
For those that don't know, Danny Lore is a queer Black writer and editor in Harlem, but raised in Brooklyn. I have definitely seen them on. I think the pronoun is on Twitter, and I know they were hinting around to some. I guess this was one of them, certainly. Got out. maybe actually something stuff coming out. I've seen good things about it. Next up, Miles Morales Spider-Man changes Marvel's most controversial name. We talked about this last week, but I reiterate. So spoiler alerts for last Miles Morales Spider-Man number 22, in which we found out, and actually I don't think we actually said kind of alluded. Miles' dad changed his name. He's now Jefferson Morales. Thank God. Thereby correcting another of Bendis's. Anyway, so that's the thing. You can go check that out. Next up,
Shout out to our very own at TimDog98 for this article on CBR.com. Miles Morales' Clone Saga is more controversial than Peter Parker's, Marvel says. Really? Oh.
Yeah, this was out last week, and I forgot to put it in the lineup after we talked about the fact that there was going to be that Miles was going to have his own clone. Which I'm still kind of worried about that. But as I said last week, and other than Ahmed, we trust.
Right, it's going to start. Right, the new Clone Saga is going to start in Miles Morales Spider-Man number 25, a special oversized anniversary issue. This article has the solicit in it. It's written by Salim Ahmed with art by Carmen Canero. Wow, Ahmed has some stuff in here about this is an echo of Peter Parker's Clone Saga, where it's a classic story of the hero battling a version of themselves. So he wanted to put Miles through that iconic ringer in his own distinctive way.
But it's also weird because he just really got through doing that exact thing.
No, but that's where that's playing off that.
I know. But I'm just saying,
no, but I was gonna say that's essentially what happened back with the original Spider clone story. I think he appeared, and then everyone thought that story went away, and that's essentially how this is playing out, but over a much shorter time period.
Right, but what I'm also saying is, I'm talking about the stuff with the 616 Miles Morales, not necessarily an actual clone, but yeah, some of that definitely has come into play. That's kind of what I was kind of, not necessarily clones, but that was in that situation not necessarily a clone, but just actual. Definitely, there's been some clone stuff with. So we kind of should have thought this coming.
Yeah, I was about to say one thing is the dimensional opposite, and this is an actual clone. I gotcha.
Right. But like I said, I'm still down for it. I see where it's going. Like I said, the Clone Saga kind of has a bitter taste in a lot of Spider-Man fans. Miles.
Yeah, and I totally stopped reading Amazing. I was only at the time collecting Amazing Spidey, so I just stopped reading Spidey altogether for several months. That is. I may or may not go back and read some of this stuff. I literally just opened up my tablet, had Facebook open, and I saw one of the Bernie memes. Set in front of a place near and dear to my heart and to Classic and at Matt Wang 97's heart. Shout out to Old Sty. But yeah, that's why I just kind of laughed just now. All right. I think you're up.
Yeah, I actually, like you just, I'm thinking about, I had to going back.
Yeah.
But speaking of Miles, for owners of, Miles Morales Platinum owners gets a reward from PlayStation. So this has to do with Spider-Man Miles Morales the video. Releasing alongside the PS5 back in November, Spider-Man Miles Morales has been in public hands for a while now, with its relatively short runtime, meaning that many have blasted through the Miles Morales game. True, because I haven't ever. I'm waiting for a PS5. God darn it! And the money, but some have even reached platinum with the title, with its short running time. making it much easier effort 100% than others. Apparently, for those who did do so, PlayStation has a reward lined up to say congratulations. Like to be sent by email to those who accomplish a 100% trophy, also known as Platinum. Already in the know. The company is giving away redeemable codes for a commemorative in-game photo mode frame, allowing Platinum owners to show off their. But that I will say that would be cool if PlayStation starts doing that for stuff. Like, hey, if you're getting a Platinum for, granted, though big, but starting at something. I don't know how many people photo mode. I know there's a good bit, but never. Next up,
A new year brings new Star Trek Starship announcements, and we're just a few months away from the next expansion of the long-running official Starships collection. This April, the Star Trek Universe official Starships collection launches, collecting all the upcoming Discovery, Picard, and yet to be revealed Strange New World model releases under one banner. And as part of its inaugural month of releases, a pair of Picard ships are headed your way. The first member of this new fleet will be Captain Rios' La Serena, the hero starship at the center of Star Trek Picard, clad in its red and white hull coloring, followed by the ship Captain Will Riker led to stop the invading Romulan fleet, the Inquiry class USS Zheng He, or He. Interesting.
Oh, I'm not sure. These are definitely models.
Yeah, each ship is going to retail at $54.95.
Coming out like a set 5 in. But that's cool. And then this article also goes on to some other stuff coming. First include and some. The first part is the main quirk. DC Universe Infinite sets launch dates with over 25,000 titles to start. By the way, folks, that date is January 21st. They were recording now. DC Universe Infinite, the revamped comic-centric version of the DC Universe app, has set its launch date. Said it, and it's today. It's basically Marvel Unlimited for the DC stuff. And if you remember, it was also housing video, movies and such, all those shows, which I like that part of it, and I also like the fact that they kind of combined the movies and the books. Where they execute it well, that's one thing or another. But I kind of enjoyed it. I can't say I use it that often. I know we definitely use it for a couple of things. We talked about well, a couple of treasure edition type things we talked about, or not even treasure edition. There were actual episodes. In the beginning of the pandemic, we had a good bit of app for some of the stuff we're covering.
Right. I mean, for now, I'm still not convinced I want to join this version, just because I've said it before on the show. I just don't read enough back issue DC stuff, right? To warrant this. That's the kicker. So,
but I have like I said, I haven't used it as much as I thought I would, but I have used it here and there, and I will probably still use it for that. And as I kept Marvel, it'd be nice to have. Never gonna happen.
Yeah.
We got that is comicsology.
Right.
But it is what it is, and I believe the price will be. I believe it says $7.99 opposed to the $74.99 a year.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was about to say they give you the cost for the yearly subscription. Okay.
There you go. It's out there. Next up.
Next up, a well-preserved Batman comic from 1940 has come close, but not beaten the all-time record set by Action Comics #1. A rare Batman comic has sold for $2.2 million. I should put my pinky up to my mouth, right? Beating the previous record for the highest-priced Batman comic sold at auction of all time. The near mint Batman #1, near mint, was first published in 1940 and survived those decades.
Uh-oh. Okay. It appears that Agent 70 has frozen. Hopefully. While we try to iron that out. That's always. Live broadcasting, folks. You gotta love it. So hopefully we will get Agent. So yeah. But I will go on until. Okay. Point. So yeah. Let's see. Anyway, so yeah, so according to Hollywood Reporter, reports that the comic was sold as a part of a heritage auction event on the comics and comic book art. Batman comic was published a year after the comic's debut, which I think you probably said. Aside from being the first title issue for Batman, it also introduced iconic characters. But yeah, that's a lot of money for a book. That's kind of ridiculous. But moving right along, Batman goes to Europe in new Dark Knight title. So, let's see, Batman: The Dark Knight #1 since Gotham's protection. DC has announced a new Batman limited series that takes the Cape Crusader across the pond for a globe-trotting European adventure starting in April. Titled Batman: The Dark Knight, 6-issue series from writer Tom Taylor and artist Andy Kubert will center on a new villain named Librium and will introduce the Batman's supporting cast. An epic tale begins. An epic tale begins that Batman on a harrowing, action-packed European adventure in a new miniseries by superstar creator Tom Taylor and the one. A horrific tragedy in the UK sends a very personal and deadly night, one that will draw Batman out of Gotham. Investigate. From the moment he ends in Europe, Batman will face investigation and unheard of adversaries, will find his partner once more, all in the hunt for the villain known as Eco. So yeah, so that's the thing, and there is quite reminiscent cover of Batman: The Dark Knight. DC announces new Batman series starring Scooby Doo. So, Batman and the Mystery Inc. gang are teaming up in an all-new digital-first series titled Batman and Mystery. Writers Ivan Cohen and Charlie Fish collaborate with artists Dario Brizuela and Randy Elliott for each chapter, beginning Saturday, March 27th. Dark Knight, Scooby-Doo, and the Sleuths of Mystery Inc. That Fred will star in 24 digital chapters and will be collected in 12 print on April 13th. Excuse me. So, yeah, there you go, all you Scooby-Doo and Batman fans. Another hot collaboration. Moving right along, though. Damian Wayne will utilize multiple costumes in his Robin series. And this is the Robin series coming after. The new Robin series will feature a multitude of outfits, courtesy of artist Gleb Milnikov. Series writer Joshua Williamson revealed the news on Twitter alongside an image of Damian wearing what looks to be a black hooded vest over a gray shirt and a gold bedazzled glove. The outfit resembles the one Damian is shown wearing in promo issue images in Infinite Frontier Initiative, which begins in March. Question right there in the video. Says Gleb designed more than one new costume for Damian. We haven't even shown them all yet. Turning the son of the bat into a fashion icon. Damian is also shown wearing a red and black Robin costume on the cover. There you go. Father's going to have in what is a spoiler for last week's Futures Titans 1. Anyway, Teen Titans, well, basically, Teen Titans reveals who DC's first Red X was in. Come to find out that the Teen Titans have a long and storied full of triumphs and tragedies, and in one future timelines of the event, it looks like one of the Titans' greatest tragedies, Titans League, take over a new identity point. Much like his animated Teen Titans counterpart did, Future State Teen Titans reveals that Dick created the Red X persona for more covert operations. And now that fact may be coming back to bite them. Trying to find out that Dick Grayson was the one in the Red X mask after all. Some point. Oh. And actually we talked about this earlier, but Teen Titans Academy will recruit Shazam's Billy Batson after Future State. Future State Batman writer Tim Sheridan confirmed that Billy Batson will make an appearance in his Teen Titan Academy after DC close. I don't know how much I can say, but I'll say this. We'll see Shazam in the future. Billy Batson is going to be a student at Teen Titans Academy, which takes place in the present. He added that Billy is going to be putting on his sweater and carrying his books to class like everyone else, and confirmed that the writing team has quote-unquote things planned for them. We're going to help you get there, Sheridan continued. We're going to show you a little bit more of Billy's story before he gets to, while Sheridan noted that Billy Batson is a kid, pointed out that the teenager is tied to the not-so-innocent power that these are powers that have been seen throughout time and have done things. Great mystery, still a great mystery as to what those powers are and what they can be depending on how they're used. Yes, it was part of the plan for us to scratch our heads and wonder how Billy Batson do this and what Shazam is saying. That's a part of the fun and part of the story. So there's also another interview that CBR did that is in our show notes or so. See, Sheridan also revealed that Billy Batson is a character you don't expect to see on the dark side. Wanted to turn Shazam world upside down and show him in a different light, tying into the story we're doing Titans. So again, alluding back to what I was saying earlier, or what we were saying earlier about being tied into Teen Titans book. Next up, DC unites the Justice League and RWBY, which I believe is pronounced Ruby, in a new miniseries. In April, DC is bringing together the world of Justice League and RWBY in a brand new miniseries from Marguerite Bennett and Nikki. I'm not sure how to pronounce that name, so I apologize if I messed it up. When a new Grimm is on the loose, Team RWBY will unite with a quote-unquote new version of DC's Paragons of Justice. Take on that threat. Cover art by Mirka Andolfo, who also character design, and solicitation check. One is below. Cover right there. I don't know that much about RWBY or RWBY. I know what it is and also kind of came from, but I've never really watched. Know that. So yeah, I know it is it thing, but I've never. I believe it is a partially Rooster Teeth show. This is a Rooster Teeth made show, and creation. So and that that is that's I may actually oh. All right. The Old Guard is coming back as a comics anthology role. 2020's The Old Guard film on Netflix was a surprise hit last year. Based on the comic by Greg Rucka and Leandro Fernandez, the story of an immortal band of mercenaries got people talking. I have yet to watch that. Definitely not read the book. But with a script by Rucka himself and directed by Gina Prince Bythewood, the movie left everyone waiting for it. While Rucka and Fernandez has supplied one comic sequence, 19 Old Guard Force Multiplied, crew is coming back in even bigger style with the Old Guard Time, a new 6-issue anthology that jaunts through centuries. The series boasts a star-studded lineup of contributors according to Polygon, which debuted. Those contributors are Alessandro Arbona and Kano, Brian Michael Bendis, Brian Avon Oming, and Taki Soma, Robert McKenzie, David Walker, and Justin Greenwood. At Fraction, Vita Alaya and Nicola Scott, Kelly Sue DeConnick and Valentino DeAndro. Is that the Pretty Deadly team? Or yeah, I believe that is the Pretty or the Pretty Deadly or not Pretty Deadly. I'm missing, but y'all know the series I'm talking about. Kelly Sue. Or Eric Trotman and Rick Burchett, Andrew Wheeler and Jacopo Magnami, Camagni, sorry. Matthew Clark, Jason Aaron, Steve Lieber, and Horacio Altuna, and of course, Rucka and find quotes from most of the above at Polygon and some Polygon article that we have. Here you go. Next up, I believe Agent 70 is still trying to sort out his. Meet Fight Bunny, a rabbit fighting for pie, cake, and justice. Those who've been hankering for a Paddington Bear but are hoping for a bit more punch, you'll have that in the upcoming graphic novel, The Effervescent Fight Bunny. Artist Jennifer L. Meyer, writer Nate Crosby, letterer Ariana Mayer come together for a 45-page all-age original graphic novel starring an anthropomorphic rabbit as she uses a sword and cape, like agents might and an oversized heart to fight for. All was well in the great flooded forest. Squirrels and foxes played gin rummy. Birds enjoyed bubble baths. There was a hippo with a very judgy opinions on steep preparation. Anyway, life is swell, but on this specifically water started flooding the forest. Cause beavers with impressive work ethic. The Reds, Cosby's one shot. While some of the animals prepared to move on to higher dry ground, others fretted and flailed and fanned out for a hero to save their home. That is the crux of Luckily, at the moment, they were visited by spoiler Fight Bunny. Description continues. Can Fight Bunny battle and baffle a bevy of belligerent beavers? Will the secrets of the great flooded forest unfold in time to save all those that live there? Why is the hippo so adamant about about the boiling temperature of their breakfast tea? But here you can see some art from it. It looks good actually. I'm kind of I would definitely check this out. You know, rabbit with a sword and a cape. So going up against water and various issues that was around that. But hey, like a good, I don't know. Wait, there's also in this article out a 5-page pre, and it apparently. Oh, so I did not know this, but it was scheduled to debut in October. Was currently raising. Oh, actually, is currently raising funds on Kickstarter, which is currently nearing 20,000 towards the 24,500 by January 28th. If ways to go. Oh, okay. So yeah, it's almost met their goal. So they're only like 4,000 away from meeting their goal. So hopefully, I'm actually sounds cute. That you two can back this. Oh wait, hold on for a second. Oh, okay, yeah. So it is scheduled to come out in October. Coming October. And not last opera. Like I said, you can check that out. Be on sale in October, both digital and print. But that's cool.
Guess who's back? Back up.
Nice.
And
Ladies and gentlemen,
folks,
yeah, Agent 70 is back in the building.
there it is. We all have our own sound effects. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. So where are we on the news list?
Hero Initiative, like third from the last.
All right, so you're this one's next?
Yes.
Okay, so Hero Initiative, the charity dedicated to helping comic book creators in medical or financial need, announced their latest fundraiser in partnership with the Bink Foundation. That's a book industry charitable foundation this week. Double Visions is an art auction that kicks off February 2nd and features two comic book artists teaming to draw original art. That art features two comic book creators to benefit two comic book charities, the Hero Initiative and the Bink Foundation's Comic Book United Fund, which helps comic book retailers in need due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. There's a list of original art pieces in this article that will begin to be made available for auction on February 2nd. They're going to be auctioned off via Heroes' eBay account, 5 at a time, along with Hero Initiative's descriptions.
Yeah, so that's always been the Hero Initiative has always been a cool thing. Good to know. And there's a list of descriptions being auctioned off by some.
Righto.
Next up, so I guess I wish we had this for last week. Nevertheless, it is. So 3 notable graphic novels focus on Black culture, history, and storytelling. And this was article that came out around Martin Luther King Day. By the way, happy MLK Day. So this article has 3 graphic novels. One that just came out, it looks like today, or today as of that article, which was 15th. One that I was kind of looking forward to checking out, and I totally forgot that it was coming out. But the Black Panther Party, a graphic novel history by David F. Walker and artist Marque Kwame Anderson from 10 Speed Press imprint of Penguin Random House. So that came out, and that is basically a collaboration that explores the history of the Black Panther Party, the militant movement in the 60s to confront intractable systems. Promise you I can talk. But yes, this is a graphic novel that talks about that, and I've been definitely looking forward to checking that out. And there was 2 more in here. One which is called Afrofuturism ad infinitum. Done by artist, writer, and animator Tim Fielder. That is also already out, if I'm not mistaken. I believe all these books possibly. And the last one is Hardboiled Action as Cold as Stone by writer artist Hawke Anderson. Is perhaps best known for his definitive graphic biography of Martin Jr. called King. So the article's writer notes recent work here despite it being here is being and Stone is a near future action revenge thriller in the style of early 70s grindhouse classics like Billy Jack, and is a prose novella with a from and so if you're interested in any of those, you can definitely check it out. Last but not least,
Oh, I love it. This is the best story to come back and wrap the show with. My Little Ponies will join the Transformers on Cybertron. For a new comic adventure. IDW's licensed comics love themselves a good crossover, especially the Transformers, who've teamed up with everyone from the crew of the USS Enterprise to the Ghostbusters, and yes, even the beloved magical horses of Equestria. This time they're teaming up with Pinkie Pie and the gang again. I actually am familiar with even the name Pinkie Pie only because my niece loves My Little Pony. On their home turf, IO9 can exclusively reveal the first look at My Little Pony Transformers 2, a 4-part miniseries from writers James Asmus and Sam Maggs and artists Jack Lawrence and Casey W. Collar. following up from last year's original event, which brought the Autobots and Decepticons to Equestria via Queen Chrysalis's magic powers. This time around, Rainbow Dash, Applejack, Fluttershy, Twilight Sparkle, and the rest of their friends will be crossing over to the Transformers' homeworld of Cybertron. Oh my goodness.
So yeah, so as the one who was reading the original, the original miniseries, I knew very well that they had set this up at the end of that coming. And I probably even said as much, and it wouldn't have been that big of a surprise anyway, because as the article even says, the IDW Transformers crossovers. Actually, Ghostbusters 2, second too, but yeah, there've been a lot of Transformers crossover. Some of them have been good, actually. I weirdly enough actually enjoyed the My Little Ponies one. It was cute and weird all at the same time. Definitely more weird because you never think those two pairings would work, even in a Hasbro cinematic universe, such as they both are. Well, not a cinematic universe, but a Hasbro universe such as they are. Man, remember when they were doing the Hasbro universe back in the comics? All those few years ago.
Oh, you mean in the IDW books?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I thought you were talking about in the Marvel books, way back in the day.
No. This was like, this is probably about 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Yep.
At this point, where they were basically putting Transformers, Maz, G.I. Joe, and all of them together.
And ROM.
And ROM Space, ROM, not Space. And the Micronauts all together, and that didn't really pan out all that well. And Mask was also in that.
Yep, I remember.
Yeah, which there was actually some decent stuff in there, but it didn't last. Transformers crossovers keep rolling and rolling. Anyway, that is it for the news as we end off on this episode. But first,
talk about an eventful episode. We had the entire Voltron together, including our podcast forefather classic materia.
Indeed.
And we had an internet connection snafu on my part.
So check.
It's a little bit of everything this week. Yeah. You gotta love it.
Yeah, it's not like we haven't had those didn't it feel like we squeezed everything, the entire Comic Book Chronicles experience into one episode? Pretty much. I feel like we may have missed out on something, but yeah, we pretty much hit all. You had a bingo card for it. We pretty much hit the big beats.
Exactly. All right, our last ad of the night is for Amazon. You know that's what I like to read when it's late and we're all tired. Keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us, then click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or Marvel Legends. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through cspn.us. Do it today. Roddykat is rocking a certain sweatshirt.
Yes, I dressed up for the occasion, or dressed down, whatever this may be. But yeah, this was the hoodie that Matt Wayne got me from one of the Comic Cons a couple of years back that I paid him for. But nevertheless,
yeah, I think I sprung that. I got that as a gift for a friend of mine up here. I think that's the one from the Marvel booth from a few years back.
Mm-hmm. It is with the fingerprints and everything.
Cool. Shout out at Matt Wang 97.
Absolutely. Also had, I was rocking the actually this probably doesn't show up all that well, but the now probably limited edition Comic Book Chronicles swag, being the cup, and actually I had on the shirt too.
Sure. I was about to say I should have done that. I was just happy to have the entire gang back together. Like literally, I've been waiting to play that Voltron cut for forever. You know that.
Yes, it's true. It is very much true. I know.
I gotta say, I really had a lot of fun seeing everybody on screen. Not that we don't have fun, but it was so much fun to hear everybody's take on things, and that people had read books, and and it was great just to hear Classic just kind of chime in when he could.
Absolutely.
It was a lot of fun, a lot of fun. So, maybe we'll get Roddykat a green screen soon.
Well,
you were fading in and out of your background for a while there.
Oh,
when
I know.
came
Yeah,
back,
that's
so.
because of the nature of Skype screen work. Yeah, there's things I could do. Well, I think I could probably right now because as I was gonna say way earlier, if I turned off this green screen, it would have been just like Dirk was talking about with his old setup, where a lot of junk is in the background. Like, no,
I understand. I sympathize.
We absolutely don't need that.
Like I said, I worked hard to put that bookcase up there so that it would be cool for the Comic Book Chronicles. So
absolutely, and I definitely got stuff I can put up, and some of it will definitely be put up as print toy corners.
Exactly.
But anyway, that being the case, thank you each and every one of you all for coming out to another Comic Book Chronicles, especially being the 400s. I have been your host, Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
Carolina with Columbia down the way.
Hey, you were the only one I didn't have a chance to play it for because of the snafu on the announcement. So I had to play it now.
Indeed. And also, like I said, provider of the sound effects, 1agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PCN_dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Net on Twitter, popculturenetwork.com, and all those umbrella sites they're in, and I still forgot to, even though he was here, forgot to ask him if he was doing Bite, which is the divine replacement under Comic Book No Vowels. How about that? I had to do it here and still didn't do it. But anyway, the Osiris of this ish, Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, CB Cron on Twitter, which is the which is Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. Definitely, give a shout out to the CB Cron and hit us up there if you got any questions or whatever the case may be, or just our general ones that we're giving out. CB Cron on Twitter, DClick Nation on Twitter, that's DKLIQNATION, all one word, theclicknation.com, and also Comic Book Resources, where Tim is over there writing it. We're proud of him. We really
are. Absolutely.
And our special guest, formerly known as Classic Materia, now I guess on Twitter known as classic_AOD.
Oh, that's right. We need to account for that. I forgot about that. Yeah. At classic_AED.
Is it AED? Okay, oops, I got it wrong in the thing. So yeah. But definitely go check it out. It'll be in the show notes where you can link to it. Classic. Definitely go hit up our man's there on that. I'm clear. I should have asked him if he had any other places he wanted to close. I think he definitely has gotten into this cosplay. I know they've been doing
right.
And I totally forgot about it, but I'll put it in the show notes. Regardless, you can find this here program on the Cold Slither Podcast Network that Classic has founded at CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find this podcast on your podcast place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, Spotify, or the Cold Slither Podcast Network, SoundCloud. You can also join us each week, Thursday nights, 9:30-ish, and we actually was pretty decent on time this time. I'm just kind of shocked by that. As compared to normal, but 9:30-ish p.m. Thursday nights, where we record live on YouTube channel of the Click Nation, which is youtube.com/Nation, or as some folks have done tonight, and appreciate to the new follow that I just noticed a few minutes ago on Twitch, twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles. Definitely check us out, and hopefully we can get to 50 on the start of Rocket. allowed us to do. And of course, like I said, we will definitely be trying to do some more streams. Couple that I set up. But all in due time. I believe that is it. Stay tuned for next. We have another show. Same bat time, same bat channel. It's going to be glorious. Going into another century. It feels like another 100 episodes or another 500 episodes of this here Comic Book Chronicles.
Absolutely.
And with that, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Phase 1.
Good evening, Rick.
Would you believe